Today, Sooner Nation begins life without Bob Stoops. Enter 33-year-old Lincoln Riley. The former offensive coordinator is now the main man in Norman.
There are no easy paths on the way to greatness. Each road is littered with the hungry, the hostile, the emboldened.
I'm a pain dealer, I'm a faith healer, I'm a soul stealer, and I'm coming for you.
Along the way, each team must navigate the perilous trails along this journey.
Death Valley, the big house.
There are no shortcuts. The start of another season brings changes even in the most prominent of places. A new era of Oklahoma football has arrived, but their young leader knows that expectations remain the same.
You're going to have a chance to win and to win big. That's why you come to Oklahoma, but also the opportunity to really do something special.
Lamar Jackson looks for an encore to his magical Heisman-winning season.
Lamar Jackson, you are ridiculous. Are you kidding me with this guy?
Every game is everything. It's a college football doubleheader. Next on Fox.
Must be nice in your first head coaching gig to have a legit Heisman contender at quarterback. Baker Mayfield, a top 5 Heisman finisher the last 2 years. He's lost some weapons, but not his swagger and not his ability to carry this proud Oklahoma program. We welcome you to the Fox College Football pregame, sponsored by Wendy's. Lunchtime out here is on the West Coast. It is lunchtime on the West Coast. Glad you're with us.
Always.
Rob Stone, Robert Smith, college football, Hall of Fame inductee Matt Leinart, Dave Wannstedt with you. Hey, at 33 years old, Lincoln Riley is the youngest active FBS head coach. Coach, what were you doing at 33?
At 33, I was at your alma mater, USC, keeping that tradition alive, getting ready to play your alma mater, Ohio State, in the Rose Bowl.
Wow. Well, at 33, the year was 2005, and it's always about Matt. It was 2005. I was in my first year in television watching Matt, the defending Heisman Trophy winner, and his USC Trojans on the way to try and do a little three-peat action.
And guys, at 33, which was just a year ago, I was up here on set with you guys. Yeah. You know, I just say you guys are like father figures to me. I really.
He was looking for a razor.
I was up here.
You can't give me older brother. Why do I have to be a father figure?
That's how it's going to be all season long.
And then Rob,
what were you doing?
Yeah, I'll tell you when I turn 33. The obvious main storyline today in Norman, game 1 for Lincoln Riley. Here he is moments ago with our Bruce Feldman.
Lincoln, this is your first game as a head coach. What are some of the thoughts that went through your mind from the time you woke up today to get ready to come over here?
Just excited, excited that it's finally here. Been a lot of build up to this, and more than anything for me personally, just excited to see this team play. They've had a great camp, and just really to see the way we compete today.
Your old boss, Bob Stoops, I heard he was out at practice on Thursday. What are some of the things, the messages he's kind of given you as you get ready to be the head coach of the University of Oklahoma now?
Well, there's been a lot of great things he's been able to pass on, but the biggest thing has just been being yourself. You've got to be who you are. You've got to be confident in that. He epitomized that, and hopefully I can do the same.
Remember in June, Bob Stoops surprisingly stepped down after 18 years leading the Crimson and Cream. 190 wins since 1999 and the third highest winning percentage in FBS. Just a few of the numbers that he's going to leave behind. Stoops, he essentially handpicked Riley to replace him. Riley retained all of the assistants, also brought in the highly respected Ruffin McNeil as his assistant head coach. So the question out there is just how much is really going to look different in Norman this year?
Well, as far as Lincoln Riley and his coaching style, I don't think it's going to be very much different. He's a disciple of Mike Leach, which might scare some people, but to me, it means that he knows when to take calculated risks, whether it's a fourth down, a fake in special teams, but we saw that out of Bob Stoops as well. And I think the most important thing is the continuity of the staff on the defensive side of the ball. Mike Stoops still going to be the defensive coordinator, of course, older brother of Bob Stoops. No hard feelings there. Those guys have had a great relationship. I don't think it's going to look much different.
And obviously the coaching staff's intact, and Bob Stoops, I know he's still in the building. But for me, when you're an offensive-minded head coach, the number one thing you want is a quarterback. And, Rob, you touched on the open. They've got a Heisman Trophy candidate, Baker Mayfield, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, leading that team. Now, they lost a lot of production, but I just guarantee you Lincoln Riley's going into this season, transitioning into a head coach, the everyday responsibility that he's going to have, sleeping better at night, knowing that he's got this guy leading that offense.
Yeah, Bob Stoops, you know, we referenced he was at practice this week. He has an office in the building. Hopefully Lincoln's using him as a sounding board, and hopefully he remembers that running game with P. Ryan and Mixon last year, that was a big part of the balance and success that helped their team. The one change that I'm looking for is defensively, I believe they're going to go back to the 4-3 defense, really, which is Bob Stoops' background, Mike Stoops' background, and with the looks that you're seeing, you know, in the Big 12 Conference, it's 4, 5, 6 receivers. Hey, very seldom do you use 3 linebackers anyway. 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs.
Coach, I'm curious, quickly, if you're Riley, would you want Bob Stoops at the game today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm with you, man. I'm going to need to see more and more of those segments. That's good. What happened to Eli, by the way? Yeah, Peyton and Cooper are funny.
I don't know who Eli and Peyton are. I've never heard of them. It's all about Cooper Manning. It is all about Coop. Keep them coming, kid. Let's focus on impact players brought to you by Wendy's. We're going to start with Metz, who has shown a big swing in his numbers when they win compared to when they lose.
Yeah, you know, he started 12 career games in his career. Last year, you see the numbers right there, 14 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's got some size. He's got some skill. Obviously, first ever quarterback from UTEP to go to the Manning Academy. We know how big of a deal that is because he gets to compete with all the best quarterbacks in all of college football. So he's a competitor, and it was such a great thrill for him. He learned a lot from that experience. Unfortunately, UTEP last year was dead last in their conference in passing. They don't like to throw the football. Today, they're going to have, they like to run the ball, Coach, but today against Oklahoma, it's going to be tough sled and running. So I do think Ryan Metz is going to have more on his plate trying to throw the football today.
As Oklahoma tries to figure out who their go-to wideouts are going to be, Coach, it's always nice to have a reliable tight end.
It is, and Mark Andrews is going to be the guy this year. You know, it's 6'5", 250. He would be what I would term as a complete tight end. He can block, he can catch. How about this? 82% of his catches were either first downs or touchdowns. He was second on the team last year with touchdown receptions, and with the absence of Westbrook and P. Ryan and Mixon, hey, he is the guy whenever, you know, that Baker Mayfield is going to have to lean on, and particularly in this game.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on it. No P. Ryan, no Mixon in the backfield. Both of those guys went over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. So who steps in?
Well, it could be a few guys. You can see Abdul Adams right there. He carried the ball 53 times a year ago. Not a very big guy. Anderson, a little bit, or that one's Sutton right there. Sutton is the junior college transfer, really versatile guy, does a nice job catching the ball out of the backfield. And there's Anderson right there. He's 6'2", 218 pounds. So they all offer something a little bit different. We talked about this earlier, Coach. Lincoln Riley really wants to establish or continue that balance that this offense had, running these guys out of the backfield, but also throwing the ball out of the backfield with these guys. Because P. Ryan and Mixon last year combined for 644 yards receiving, six touchdown receptions.
You know, the most important thing about coaching running backs? Make sure
letting them go.
Make sure they're on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We don't need much coaching.
Riley did say earlier this week that all 4 available running backs would play today. The Times, yes, they are changing at Oklahoma. Bob Stoops is gone. The Lincoln Riley era begins today. So how will the new boss respond to this new task?
I just really couldn't let myself believe that it was real. And so yeah, when I got that call and went over and found out that this is indeed real, it was emotional. It was.
Fox College Saturday pregame is sponsored by Wendy's Fresh, never frozen beef hamburgers, the official hamburger of the NCAA. Later today, here on Fox, Lamar Jackson begins defense of his Heisman. The Cardinals take on Purdue, who's now led by Jeff Brom. Over on FS1, Luke Falk and his impressive numbers for Washington State. They host Montana State. Remember, the Cougars have dropped their last 5 season openers. First team all Big 12 corner, Jordan Thomas. 49 tackles last season, 42 of them were unassisted, also had 2 picks. His defense 5th in total and scoring D last year in the Big 12. Back in June, shockwaves went through the college football world when Bob Stoops stepped down as Oklahoma's head coach. Now, a new era begins as Lincoln Riley looks to continue the storied tradition in Norman. Our Joel Klatt sat down with the Sooners' new leading man.
After 18 years, stepping down as the head football coach here at Oklahoma and hand this baton off to help keep this going in a great direction.
Have you had time to even fathom what happened this summer?
Not much. Not much. There will be some time for that. Hopefully, a long time from now. But no, I not really. It's just kind of been, you know, it's just been, hey, here we go.
The next great head coach of football at the University of Oklahoma, Coach Lincoln Riley.
I think you had a sense that you were being groomed for this job, but none of us expected that it was going to happen this year. So when you got the call from Joe Castiglione, the athletic director here, and you hear that you're the head coach at the University of Oklahoma, what went on inside of you?
I don't know that I can describe it totally. I just really couldn't let myself believe that it was real. And so yeah, when I got that call and went over and found out that this is indeed real, it was emotional. It was. To Coach and his family, shoot. He gave me a chance a few years ago that I'll never forget. His guidance has been incredible, and to be the guy to take over for him is an incredible honor, so thank you.
What do you think you learned most from Coach Stoops?
He always had just an incredible feel for the pulse of the team, what the team needed at a certain point, whether it's a good time, whether it's an adverse time. He had as much perspective on the game as anybody I've ever met, and so to be a part and giving him a chance to go out the way he wanted to was special.
This is a team with conference title aspirations, national championship aspirations, returning quarterback that has been in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Is there a better situation to step into as your first time as a head coach?
No, and something like this only happens at Oklahoma. When you do it at a place like this, you learn to handle the expectations. I don't know if there's another school in America that I would have wanted it as much from, and I knew this was going to be a great situation.
No doubting it's a great situation, but massive offensive numbers no longer reside in Norman with the departure of really the big 3 right there. Those 3 players combined for 4,603 yards last season. So does that then translate into added pressure on Baker Mayfield, who has shown some off-the-field issues in the past?
Yeah, he needs to clean that up. But the added pressure, this is a kid who really thrives on pressure. He's a highly motivated kid, obviously, with the criticism and he's a former walk-on, so he's played with that chip on his shoulder his whole career, and that's what makes him special. That's what makes him great. But when you look at this season and losing that production, and you had great running backs and an All-American wide receiver, he has to be careful not to press too much and feel like he's got to take this whole offense on his shoulders and carry the football team, because at times we saw Baker Mayfield, sometimes he plays outside the system a little bit. It leads to interceptions and to turnovers. He's going to have to elevate the players around him, obviously bring them along slowly, but he also has to trust the process with these guys. If he does that, this offense is going to be fine.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. This is a guy that thrives under that pressure, really embraces that role, and maybe some of what happened off of the field kind of humbles him a little bit, and he's a guy that understands, yeah, the rules apply to me too. That's not just off the field, that's on the field. You want to maintain or stay within the structure of the offense, not do too many crazy things. It's a lot of fun for him. It's a lot of fun to watch when he kind of improvises. Yeah. But if he wants the best chance for this team to win, play-by-play. It's got to stay within that structure.
Yeah, and I would be, as a head coach, I would almost be as concerned about things off the field. You know, and what I mean is, I would call them in and I would talk about, don't worry about the numbers every week. You know, we just got to win games. You focus on winning. Don't worry about the Heisman. Don't worry about the NFL. You know, all the temptations, everything that's going to come along with that. Keep your focus 1 week at a time on just winning. I mean, I think that's the message that, as a head coach, you need to get to him and get to him quick.
So it's a great message as a head coach, but as a player, where is he on your Heisman list right about now?
He was number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah.
46 touchdowns a year ago, and
huge number.
The loss of production is either going to help or hurt him. It might hurt him because he doesn't have those guys, but it could help him because he's going to have to carry more.
But if they win, right? If they win and win
like
the Big 12,
all he has to do is win football games. He's got a great offensive line. They've recruited well. Those running backs, like you said, we'll see who can step up there. But they're talented. They got guys.
Did you fight off the numbers and the Heisman stuff? Were you just worried about winning? I'm asking.
I'm not going to say, but we did win a lot of games in college.
You win a lot of games when you got, what, Coach, a good offensive line.
Yeah,
Orlando Brown, the reigning Big 12 offensive lineman of the year.
That's good. Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nice. Awesome.
Sooner faithful hoping they can avoid a second consecutive September swoon. Remember last year, the Crimson and Cream, they got roughed up by Houston, then hammered at home by Ohio State before rattling off 10 straight wins. What a game right now over on FS1. This is Maryland's backup quarterback. Kasim Hill runs it in from 3 yards out, 7-play, 52-yard drive. Wow. Maryland back on top by 10. Oklahoma, essentially a 43-point favorite in this one as they host a UTEP team that had just 4 wins last season. We're going to look at some different elements of the Sooners game. So why is the offensive balance important for you?
Well, I think Lincoln Riley, obviously, he had been the offensive coordinator, and that's what really helped this team succeed. And for this offense to operate at its highest level, you need that balance, working in 3 new backs, replacing Pirine and Mixon.
I'm curious, Oklahoma's secondary. Listen, UTEP is not going to be able to run the football, so they're going to have to throw the ball with Ryan Metz. Oklahoma secondary a year ago got torched in some games. I want to see how they respond today.
Yeah, and for me, you mentioned the uncertainty at running back. There's a lot of people who think they might have the best offensive line in college football. I want to see those guys show up today and carry the torch.
Their entire offensive line returns. The 12-time Big 12 titleists and 7-time national champs usher in a new era in Norman. For the call, Joe Davis and Brady Quinn.
Fox College football presented by Volkswagen. The nation's longest active winning streak belongs to these Oklahoma Sooners at 10 in a row after last season's slow start. They open this 2017 year with UTEP coming to town, and some added intrigue as Lincoln Riley gets ready to coach his first game as the head man here in Norman. Sellout streak alive and well here at Memorial Stadium. Always a great environment. With a Heisman contender at quarterback in Baker Mayfield, the cupboard far from bare as Lincoln Riley gets ready to take over. It is rare that you get turnover at head coach the way Oklahoma has, and it's had so much continuity even with it. The staff remaining almost entirely intact. What a great situation for Lincoln Riley to step into. have waited this long to get the season started. It's an extra minute or two as the Sooners get ready to take the field, and this crowd ready to greet them like heroes. Here come the Sooners. Lincoln Riley ready to coach his first game as head coach here at Oklahoma. And we say welcome inside. Joe Davis, Brady Quinn, Bruce Feldman joins us in just a moment. It'll be a little bit odd today, seeing somebody other than Bob Stoops roaming that sideline. Those 18 years as head coach, such a successful run, but in steps Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and kind of a surprise the way it happened this past June when Bob Stoops stepped down, making Lincoln Riley the youngest head coach in the FBS. But the good thing about that is Oklahoma's got a little bit of experience of hiring young coaches and having a lot of success in their past. Barry Switzer, Bob Stoops himself, as well as Bud Wilkinson. The challenge will be, can he create his own identity and continue the success that Bob Stoops had?
One thing you know he has going for him is Baker Mayfield coming back at quarterback.
And those two are going to be linked together because when Baker Mayfield got to Oklahoma, it was Lincoln Riley as his offensive coordinator who put him in a system that has allowed him to excel. He's an incredibly accurate passer. He's also very mobile. We see some of those highlight reel type plays. And I think the thing that impresses me the most about Baker Mayfield is when all else breaks down, he's still able to maintain his focus and concentration down the field and then able to capitalize when his wide receivers come open. So he's able to capitalize in chaos.
He's got 5 returning starting linemen in front of him, but the big question is who does he give the ball to, having to replace a ton of the skill spots. Lincoln Riley and the Sooners against UTEP. We've got opening kickoff from Norman on the other side of this break. Temperature in the mid-80s. Gorgeous weather for this season opener in Norman. Oklahoma and UTEP. UTEP won the toss, deferred to the second half, so we get a chance to see Oklahoma's offense right away. Off we go from Norman. And here comes the Kentucky transfer, Jeff Badette, popped at the 24. That's where Oklahoma begins. And we go down to Bruce Feldman.
Joe, one of the first calls Lincoln Riley made after he became the head coach was to his old mentor, Ruffin McNeil. McNeil was the guy who had hired Riley when he was just 26 to be the offensive coordinator at East Carolina. McNeil told me he was very happy as an assistant at Virginia. But when Riley called, it was an offer he could not refuse. He said when he was my offensive coordinator, he turned down 3 or 4 jobs to stay with me. One of them would have paid triple that what I could pay for him. That's loyalty. Lincoln's the only person I would have left Virginia to go work for.
And at 33 years old, he takes over the program officially today. Sooners begin from the 24 with an Abdul Adams run, and he's got a seam for a first down to the 40. The sophomore out of Landover, Maryland, the first running back to get a touch, and this is part of the question. How do they replace Pirine and Mixon?
A lot of production moved on to the NFL. Pirine, Mixon actually here today at the game. You got to figure out who that bell cow is going to be in the backfield.
Back to him again. He's got a gain of 2. It'll be 2nd and 8. 70% of their offensive yards gone. You got Mayfield, you got the offensive line, but we're going to meet some new guys as this season rolls out of the skill spots.
In particular on the outside at wide receiver, someone has to replace D.D. Westbrook, who was just unbelievable last year, winning the Blitnikoff.
Averaged 44 points a game a year ago, 3rd best in the country. On the opening drive, a 2nd and 7. Mayfield well protected. A man comes open underneath. It's Adams out of the backfield for a first down and more. Abdul Adams inside the 25 on a gain of 37.
That's the thing you've got to be able to do as a running back in this Oklahoma offense. You have to be able to catch the football out of the backfield. And the thing I love most about this play was the poise by Baker Mayfield. Patient in the pocket, didn't get flustered, found the completion.
First career reception for the freshman C.D. Lamb, who's crunched on a loss of 2. Julian Jackson there. And Lamb, one of the guys they hope can fill this void.
And look at the numbers and the production last year. And I think that the thing that was most impressive was really Lincoln Riley. Off to a slow start last year. He kind of figured out the identity of this offense, where really was more of a run-based offense with P. Ryan and Mixon, and then some big shots to D.D. Westbrook. So you have to figure out that identity of what the Sooners are in 2017 with all those missing pieces.
The first or second down and 12 from the 25. Mayfield zips one for Mark Andrews, and it's first down and goal. Leading returning receiver from a season ago has his first reception.
Mark Andrews tends to be that red zone target they look for whenever they get to this area of the field.
Rodney Anderson steps out of a tackle, and he's in for the Oklahoma touchdown.
And this is about as easy as it's going to get. You look at the size advantage that Oklahoma has on that offensive line. 5 returning starters. They're going to be able to bully this UTEP defensive front. Very similar to last year, a very efficient drive. Saw that from Baker Mayfield last year, setting record in the FBS for efficiency as a quarterback.
Austin Seibert on for the extra point. And just like that, Oklahoma breaks the scoring seal. 1:16. 6 plays, 76 yards, and Lincoln Riley's offensive mind helps produce an easy opening drive. Seven 0 Oklahoma in the blink of an eye. And UTEP set to get it for the first time. And out to the 23-yard line goes Keenan Foster. Now comes Ryan Metz with his UTEP offense. Took over the starting job for the final 6 games last year, and they were a totally different offense once he did.
Yeah, 3-3 down that stretch, and really, when you look at what Ryan Metz is going to be asked to do today, he's got to control his emotions. This is the biggest stage in any game that he's ever started as far as the crowd and all the external environment. He cannot really pay attention to that. He's got to focus in and do his job. And then finally, he can't turn over the football. I mean, you can't give Oklahoma any more opportunities. We saw how that last series was so easy for the offense.
Junior from El Paso, Texas. They say he's grown into this job. They're really excited about where he's at coming into this year. On first down from the 22, a drop play for Walter Dawn is going nowhere. Emmanuel Beal with a tackle for Oklahoma, and it's second down.
One of the stars on this offensive front for UTEP is number 76, Big Will Hernandez, 6'3", 330 pounds. He's been identified as a second-team AP All-American. Something that's pretty rare when you talk about the division of football that he plays, but he has demonstrated a skill set that I think is going to lead him to playing on Sundays.
Yeah, the first All-American O-lineman in UTEP history.
If you'll remember Forrest Lamp out of Western Kentucky, he was a 3rd-team AP All-American in the preseason, getting drafted for Los Angeles Chargers.
The timeout's taken with that play clock winding down.
UTEP calls their first timeout of the half.
First one of the game, and we'll take it with them. 7-0 Sooners. Fox College football presented by Volkswagen is sponsored by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you. And by AT&T. We had a chance yesterday to go through these new Oklahoma facilities. It's like we're in a spaceship in there.
I was most impressed by the hot tub, cold tub. They had mood lighting in there. We kind of walked in there. It was very tranquil and calm. I kind of didn't want to leave.
Must have been blue light at that point.
It was. I think blue or maybe like a soft purple or something. $160 million.
And it feels like it. I mean, it feels high-tech in there. And no gain on the first play for this UTEP offense. Then they had to burn a timeout. And 2nd and 10 coming here. Outside they go to Terry Juniel, who had the best camp of any of their wide receivers. Keeps the legs turning to the 30 and makes it a 3rd and short.
The UTEP offense is going to keep you honest. They're going to motion, they're going to shift. They play more of a pro-style offense. We've already seen Ryan Metz under center more than we'll probably see Baker Mayfield all year. And that's kind of something that I think head coach Sean Kugler wanted to do because he feels like there's clearly a gap in talent between the two teams. But they can have a schematic advantage as far as how they formation and how they move before the snap of the football to try to gain an advantage, at least at the space on the field that they have.
And there's Sean Kugler coaching at his alma mater in his 5th season as the head man. 3rd down and short. They bring the 245-pound Kevin Dove into the game, and he needs all of that pop to get a 1st down. Slicing his way through the defense up to the 35.
And they brought in 2 additional tight ends as well as an additional running back to help lead the way. And that's the other issue is you're going to see UTEP changing personnels often. They're going to challenge Oklahoma to identify who's in the game and then be able to get lined up. And the challenge for Oklahoma is you're adapting from a 3-4 last year to a 4-3 this year. So that changes how you then align to UTEP's offense.
How big of a deal is that change?
I think it's a pretty big deal in the sense of what your assignments are, you know, especially for the big guys up front. You know, guys like Matt Romar, number 92, or number 90, Neville Gallimore. I mean, those guys are going to be challenged with trying to be penetrators getting upfield as a.
Yeah, Matt Romar just came off with an equipment issue. Fresh set of downs for UTEP from the 35. Here comes Dawn. And Walter Dawn, not much room, running behind that offensive line that very clearly is the biggest strength of this team. And last year paved the way for one of the best running backs in the conference in Aaron Jones, but he's gone. So a lot like Oklahoma having to replace a lot of skill position players, UTEP having to deal with the same thing, especially at running back. He's under pressure, trying to get to the corner, and runs out of bounds shy of the 40. Stephen Parker angled him out, and it's 3rd down.
Ryan Metz is going to have to continue to use his legs, and he's probably a better athlete than most people realize, especially people who haven't seen him play before. And again, he's going to have to make good decisions. I think right there is an example of that. Oklahoma brought some pressure, and they're going to win that one-on-one battle up front the majority of the time. Metz just has to make sure that he preserves that right to punt. Don't force anything versus this Oklahoma defense because they'll capitalize off of it.
And they are really taking their time between plays. This is no mistake. You mentioned how often they shift before the play, so you see this normally. But especially against Oklahoma, don't want to give them any more time with the ball than they have to. They just barely get it off. The twist is picked up. Metz trying to turn the shoulders and find a man, and he does for a 1st down. 1st down reception for Warren Reddix, and the Miners have converted both 3rd downs on this drive.
And you got to love this from Ryan Metz. One of the toughest things to do as a right-handed quarterback is escape the pocket to your left, turn your shoulders to address your target, and be able to make the conversion on 3rd down. Well, Warren Reddix doing exactly what you're coached to do. When your quarterback scrambles, you try to find a way to get back to your quarterback, come back to the football and making a play. Looking for a guy to step up. Warren Reddix looks like he's maybe that guy this year.
Yeah. You say that is his biggest strength, is his ability to find windows. Good route runner. On the 46-yard line, first play in Oklahoma territory for this UTEP offense. And Walter Dawn has the sideline. Inside the 20 on a 22-yard run.
Well, a key there was the fact they brought in an additional offensive lineman at tight end right here. Number 77, Draw Brooks. Now, what the problem is, they're going to wrap this to the backside. You're going to see this run come all the way out the back door. And some of that issue happens where you see an offense designate their strength to one side, really trying to set up to make the play cut back for the big game.
Back to Dawn, who's got a big hole and a touchdown. Opening drive score for the Miners as Dawn rips off back-to-back long runs. This one from 17.
Right up the gut. We talked about left guard Will Hernandez, second team preseason All-American. Their center, Darren Gaywood, he's not too bad either. He's a second-year starter at center, and those were the guys really helping to pave the way to create those holes in the interior of the defense. There's big 76. You can see him so big, so powerful. One of the biggest things was continuing to work on his technique, keeping those hands inside to have control of his defender.
Brady Viles, first-year JUCO transfer, ties the game with the extra point. Now both teams with a touchdown on their opening drive. Midway through this first quarter, locked at 7. Sean Kugler played his college ball at UTEP. 7 wins and a bowl trip in his second season, but only 9 wins total over the last 2 years. This season off to a pretty good start with the 8-play, 78-yard touchdown drive.
They've been in a little bit of a transition. Offensive coordinator Brent Peace, this is his second year, so they're looking for strides there. I think we saw that in the second half of last season from UTEP, and really defensive coordinator Tom Mason, he's in his second year as well. So that's kind of part of the troubles I think they've seen at least last year.
Jeff Bennett takes a knee. Oklahoma will start at the 25. Time for a game break. We say hello to Sam Farber.
Maryland is working on an upset of number 23 Texas over on FS1. Jake Funk with a 12-yard touchdown run. That makes it 51-34 Terrapins. Not the start to the Tom Herman era Texas fans were looking for. They trail with just about a minute left.
All right, Sam, and you know Oklahoma fans see that and like it, but for the perception of the Big 12, that is not good.
I think we all knew that Texas was going to go through a bit of a transition. Anytime you have a new head coach, regardless of the talent that you have, and really for Maryland and DJ Durkin, the success they had last year and the way he's recruited, I think we're starting to see now the fruits of his labor.
Baker Mayfield perfect on that first drive as they march down the field in just 6 plays. The 25 off play action, lets it go over the middle. Mark Andrews has his second reception, and he stays on his feet to the 45. 20 yards for an Oklahoma first down.
The thing you got to love about Baker Mayfield is really his makeup as a quarterback. He's incredibly accurate, completed about 70% of his passes in his career. He's tough whether he's throwing from the pocket or running the football, and capitalizes in chaos. When things break down, he's at his best.
Here's Adams, got a block and got a seam. Keeps the legs churning for a first down across the 45.
One thing you got to love about this Oklahoma offensive line, besides 5 returning starters and the experience and size, is they all move pretty well for their size. You'll see them pull many times, lead blocking for the running backs.
One of the best O-lines in the country to protect Mayfield. And he's the defense, calls the play. It is another handoff to Adams. It's the same play, and it's the same result. Nice solid gain for the sophomore.
We just talked about it a minute ago. Look at the right guard, right tackle. They're big, but they're athletic, and they can pull to help seal the edge and allow Adams to get upfield for the first down.
And Oklahoma is so far doing whatever it wants offensively. Good balance between run and pass. They keep it on the ground and get a first down for Rodney Anderson behind this offensive line.
Talked about that size a minute ago. Big Orlando Brown, number 78. He is a mammoth of a human being, 6'8", 337 pounds, and he's actually lost some weight. They feel like he's in much better shape than he's ever been here before at Oklahoma. He's a guy to keep your eye on.
Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year a season ago as a sophomore. And another timeout taken. So this is an official's timeout.
Will the fans please refrain from throwing foreign objects onto the field?
Reggie Smith, head referee today. It's been tossed out of the student section over there.
Talk about the size of the offensive line. Look at it compared to Baker Mayfield. It's kind of hard with those big guys in front of you to see over them, but he really does a good job of finding throwing lanes. Good to play from the pocket.
First career carry for Marcellus Sutton, who they have high hopes for. First-year junior college transfer, who was originally recruited by Lincoln Riley at East Carolina, but one of the guys vying to replace Pirine and Mixon.
The way he was described as, he runs angry. Some people told me they kind of reminded him of an Adrian Peterson back when he was here as far as the running style, the way AP used to run.
Surprised they haven't retired 28 here yet. Talking about that earlier today.
Yeah, it's weird seeing that number in pregame.
Second down and 9. Mayfield perfect so far. He stays that way with a strength to Dimitri Flowers, one of the unsung heroes of this Oklahoma offensive attack.
He's that Swiss Army knife that every offense wishes they could have. A guy who can lead block for your running back. He can release as an inline tight end, as you'll see right here. Better than that, he blocks well, whether it's the run blocking or pass blocking. And it's probably too big to be considered a Swiss Army knife when you look at his size. Every bit of 6'2", 250 pounds. But he can do it all.
Splits out into the slot here with a first down from the 12. Anderson swings out. Already got a rushing touchdown today. Cuts it upfield and gets inside the 5.
You look at the personnel that Oklahoma has in the game. They've got big number 81, their tight end, Mark Andrews, who's split out, as well as Dimitri Flowers. So when you run a swing screen or any swing pass like that on the outside, you've got a big body out there lead blocking for him.
Mayfield already over 100 yards, has completed all 6 of his throws. Second down and short. They put Flowers at tailback this time, and here he comes downhill, bounce into the outside, touchdown Oklahoma. First career rushing touchdown for the senior.
Big number 75, right guard Drew Samia. He was the guy, once again, pulling, leading the way. The big fella. Provide Dimitri Flowers, who reads the block perfectly as he turned the defender inside for his first career touchdown. I mean, you got to love Dimitri Flowers as far as what he brings to this offense. And Lincoln Riley said he might be the smartest guy we have on the offensive side of the ball.
Had 8 receiving touchdowns over his first few years, but that is his first one on the ground. Another nice drive for the Sooners. 8 plays, 75 yards, and Oklahoma's back in front. You can help those affected by Hurricane Harvey by visiting redcross.org or texting the word Harvey to 90999. And by doing that, make a $10 donation that enables the Red Cross to respond to and continue helping these folks recover from that awful disaster. What's J.J. Watt up to? Have you checked that lately? $16 million the last I saw.
Is that what it's at now? Unbelievable.
Been awesome to see everybody kind of coming together to help out. But keep doing it. 3 drives in this game, 3 touchdowns. Austin Seibert, 3rd year in a row, handling all of the kicking duties, sends it away. And a touchback. Oh, UTEP, which converted a couple of 3rd downs on its first drive and marched down the field for a score, comes back out when you come back. Fox College football is sponsored by the all-new 2017 Jeep Compass. And by Coors Light, the key to a good offense is a refreshing defense. Climb on. Back in Norman, where it's 14-7 Oklahoma. Late in this first quarter, the season opener. Joe Davis, Brady Quinn, Bruce Feldman. Not a whole lot of defense in this one so far.
No, and that's something that I think Oklahoma would obviously like to improve upon based on their performance last year. In particular, those critical situations, third down, where UTEP on their first drive was 2 for 2.
They got better as last year went on defensively. Last 6 games or so, more than 2 touchdowns better than the first half of the season. They've got 9 players back from that team with starting experience. UTEP begins this drive from the 25, and with one-on-one, Met's taking a shot off of the hands of Tyler Batson, who's defended by Jordan Thomas. It'll be 2nd and 10. Could be a tough situation for Mike Stoops, right? Your brother's been the head guy for so long. Suddenly he's not, but he seems to be taking it in stride.
Yeah, he seems to be just kind of going back to his normal operation. I mean, from our time talking about this season, what it would be like without his brother as head coach, he said, really, I haven't had a whole lot of time to think about it. And if you look at their defense, there's 5 freshmen on their 2 deep, and they've got their middle linebacker, Kenneth Murray, starting today. So he's got a lot on his hands right now.
Met's booting, and into the flats he goes for the first reception for David Lucero, who's clipped down by Stephen Parker, and it's 3rd down.
When you look at this defense, I think one of the areas of really strength when you look at their athleticism and their length is their secondary. I mean, being down there on the field before the game, you see how difficult it is to complete passes whenever they're contested. It's actually Kenneth Murray, not C.D. Lamb.
You mentioned him starting as a true freshman. He's the first true freshman inside linebacker to start at Oklahoma in the opener since 1975.
They said he was so good, they couldn't kind of put him as a backup. They wanted to take their lumps early if they had to.
Met zips one for an incompletion. Jarred out of there by Parker. Intended for Lucero and would have been a 1st down near midfield.
Big number 18, David Lucero, is that JUCO transfer. You'll see him right there as he pushes down the seam of the defense, and Stephen Parker's the enforcer on the back end for Oklahoma. He's got great coverage skills, really vision on quarterbacks, able to break on the football and disrupt the completion.
Our first punt of the game as Jeff Badette goes back to return it. Evan Luna shanks one. Bounces to Badette. And he's run down at the 38. And Jordan Parker, one of the corners for this Oklahoma squad, yet to get up.
Parker started a bunch of games for Oklahoma last season. Sophomore Parnell Motley had beat him out for that starting cornerback position, but he was still going to get a lot of playing time this year, especially when they go their nickel personnel, where they've got that 3rd cornerback on the field.
He's dealt with injuries already throughout his young career. Missed the spring with a foot stress fracture. And a ton of pain here. Less than a quarter into this season. I'm going to take a quick break. Be back in a moment. Right after we went to break, Jordan Parker helped to his feet and helped off of the field. Training staff will continue to take a look at that left leg as Oklahoma and this Baker Mayfield-led offense comes back out. Drive begins with a Marcelius Sutton run, and he hits the hole hard for a first down to midfield.
Watch this hole on the left side of the offensive line. Look at the big boys. That's Cody Ford, former starter, and again, Orlando Brown, number 78, and look at that. Drive a truck through there.
Play action. Mayfield able to evade one rusher, and on the move, he hits Jeffrey Mead for another first down. This is one of the guys they think could have a big year stepping into the void left by Westbrook.
He's got the size and he's flashed the ability to do so. He just needs to do it on a more consistent basis, but clearly you can see as Mayfield got out of the pocket, Mead was the guy he was looking for.
6'5", such a good-looking target out there out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. His first catch of the year makes it first down at the 39. Mayfield points out a corner blitz. Change the coverage. They changed the play with a handoff to Sutton for 9. And Oklahoma right now gashing this UTEP defense.
So Baker Mayfield changed the play because he saw that corner blitz, but then UTEP changed their call. They actually blitzed from the other side. Unfortunately, it created a seam in the backside they were able to capitalize on.
Second and short. Sutton again popped in the backfield. That's Devin Cockrell, the most experienced player on this minor defense, dropping him for a loss of 3.
And the hardest hitter on this defense, at least from the coaching staff. You'll see him right there. Call this shooting your gun. When you're able to identify the gap you think the ball's coming to and firing through to make the tackle.
There's some good players on this defense.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing for them is really just adjusting to the new defensive coordinator last year in Tom Mason, and really a new scheme. A lot of times you recruit kids to fit certain positions on your defense, and some of these guys were recruited to be a different defense than what UTEP's been running the past couple of years.
Taking Parker back to the locker room. Here's a screen. Andrews breaks an arm tackle, but it can only break one, and Nick Needham pulls him down 3 yards short. It's 4th down.
You could make the case it's the first big decision for Lincoln Riley in his early head coaching career. It appears they will go for it.
It's got to be one of the nice things, right? You don't have to answer to Bob Stoops anymore. You can decide if you're going to.
Well, I wonder if it's part of it is with Austin Seibert, who struggled a little bit, in particular from this distance when you look at not making a field goal past 40 yards last season.
It'll be 49 from here. Instead, they go on 4th and 3. And a timeout.
UTEP calls their second timeout.
So already the second timeout of the half for UTEP. This Oklahoma squad a year ago went to its second consecutive Big 12 title, but that was off after a 1-2 start with the losses to Houston and, of course, Ohio State here. But they'd win 10 in a row to finish, carrying the longest active winning streak in the country into this season. That included the Sugar Bowl win over Auburn. They've handled the Tigers in the All-State Sugar Bowl, and then, of course, passed the torch this summer from Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley.
I think one of the factors in the slow start was, D.D. Westbrook, their outstanding wide receiver, had a nagging hamstring injury, and really this offense didn't find its flow until after the first 4 games of the season, becoming more of a run-dominant team.
They empty it out for 4th and 3. Mayfield scans the field. And trouble and sack back at the 42. Dante LaViolette, senior out of Port Arthur, Texas, comes up with a sack and a turnover on downs.
One of the most productive players on this defense for UTEP. And really, to me, that was a misread for Baker Mayfield. Look at number 81, Mark Andrews. He runs a little return route. See how he comes inside, comes back out. He's wide open. Get him the football for the completion and the first down, but Mayfield had his eyes to the left side of the field, did not see it. Kind of surprising because Mark Andrews is really the guy, I think, on 3rd down and in the red zone. Baker Mayfield should almost be always looking at as his first read.
Hard guy to miss. The NFL tight end size.
We heard about it in our pregame show, too. They talked about how many catches resulted either in first downs or touchdowns for Mark Andrews last year.
Didn't have as big of a role as they would have liked down the stretch. Really hoping to incorporate him more this year. First quarter coming to a close. Oklahoma's Mets throwing the slant, and Eddie Senegal with his first reception of the season, bringing this first quarter to a close. UTEP hanging in. First game under Lincoln Riley here in Norman, and after a quarter, the Sooners in front, 14-7. Welcome back to Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen here in Norman, where it's 14-7 Oklahoma after a quarter. And you expect to see some of the offensive numbers the Sooners have put up at about 8.5 yards per play. What you probably didn't expect was that UTEP is almost right there, too, at 7 yards a pop. Second down and short begins his second quarter. And Walter Dawn with a short gain. It'll be third and short, and we check in with Bruce.
Joe, just an update on Jordan Parker, the sophomore cornerback. They worked on his left knee on the field and then took him back into the locker room for further evaluation.
Okay. Appreciate the update, Bruce, on the sophomore corner.
Hate to see that at any point in time in the season, but especially this early for a team like Oklahoma with such high aspirations. Cuts into the depth and really talent experience you've got in a player like Parker.
Miners 2 for 3 on third down so far. 3rd and 2 at midfield. It's Dawn trying to get to the edge, and with a stiff arm he does, but a flag down.
Looks like it's going to be a hold, and it might be on true freshman Forrest McKee.
Holding. Offense. Number 31. 10-yard penalty. Repeat third down.
Yep. McKee plays fullback, and as they tried to set up the power play, as they call it, fortunately, you can see right there, he's got his hands on the back of Jordan Thomas, number 7. That allowed Walter Dawn to get to the outside, so we'll replay the down. This is really, it really becomes pivotal for Ryan Metz to not make a mistake here. It's 3rd and long. Don't turn the football over and give Oklahoma a good playing field.
Sooners rush 4. He's given time. He hits the crosser, but he's well short of the first down on Josh Weeks' first reception of the day. Emmanuel Beal and Khalil Houghton were there to greet him. 4th down.
And that's a good decision. Oklahoma dropped back into coverage. There really wasn't anything downfield. Take your completions, take the additional yards, just adding on yards to the punt, and play the field position battle.
Sean Kugler getting into Walter Dawn.
I think he wanted to keep that run to the inside on the 3rd down. Not really that it would have mattered, but maybe he feels like it would have negated that holding penalty.
And Walter's saying, Coach, I'm 5'6". Fair catch taken inside the 10. Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma offense back at it. A perfect 8 for 8 so far. Back to Norman in a moment.
Looking for adventure this Labor Day?
Holy smoke. Oh man, that's pretty intense.
Look no further than Chevrolet.
This is a fast car. I feel like I left my soul back there.
Wow,
this has power.
Head to the Chevy Labor Day sales event and ride out the summer in a new Chevrolet. Now use Labor Day bonus cash to get $4,000 total cash allowance on most Chevy Traverse models, or get 20% below MSRP on select 2017 Chevy models in stock. Find new roads at the Chevy Labor Day sales event.
Not every rivalry is a fair fight. Like Wendy's and the beef they've always had with the other guys who make you settle for thawed out. But Wendy's goes all out. They've been serving up fresh, never frozen beef on every hot and juicy hamburger for nearly 50 years. Which is why true hamburger fans don't see much of a rivalry between fresh and frozen. And why Wendy's holds the title official hamburger of the NCAA.
You could be my love, even if the sky is falling down. I know that we'll be safe and sound.
So many Americans struggle with finances. Starting today, State Farm is here to help, giving us all the chance to simply sit down and learn. Visit letstarttoday.com or talk to an agent.
We're safe and sound.
Remember 2007? Smartphones? OMG. 10 years later, nothing's really changed. It's time to snap out of it.
Hello, Moto.
Snap on a JBL speaker. Put a 70-inch screen on a wall. Get a 10 times optical zoom. Get excited, world.
Hello, Moto.
Moto is here. The new Moto Z with Moto mods. Buy the new Moto Z, and you'll get a free projector mod.
I just really couldn't let myself believe that it was real. And so when I got that call and went over and found out that this is indeed real, it was emotional. It was.
The Muleshoe, Texas boy, Lincoln Riley, small town in West Texas, head coach at Oklahoma at age 33. Turn 34 on Tuesday next week. His offense backed into its own end, and it begins this drive with an Abdul Adams run for a short gain. Dante LaViolette with a stop. He's not alone, though, at Oklahoma when it comes to being young and getting an opportunity. Some of the great names that have run this program were young when they took over.
And you look how successful Bob Stoops and Barry Switzer, Bud Wilkinson have been, over 100 wins. So not only were they young when they were hired, but they had a ton of success. And look, he's going to learn along the way. He told us he's still learning, you know, how he wants to be a head coach, still utilizing his mentors, Bob Stoops, who's somewhere in-house. He'll be stopping on with us here in a little while. It's going to be a process for him. You know, he's going to have to find his own identity and still maintaining the culture they've built this Oklahoma program.
They again put Flowers at tailback. He's run for a touchdown today, and on 3rd and 1, he knifes through for a first down. Let's bring in Bruce again.
You know, Joe, I asked Lincoln Riley this summer about how he balanced being a rising star and kind of getting his feet wet as a coach with fitting in, and he said, you know what, I did a really bad job of it, actually. You remember when he was 19 as a student assistant and barking out opinions in staff meetings, and he goes, there's a right and a wrong way to do that. He goes, I was pretty reckless. And he said, I had to learn. And I said, I was fortunate because there's an element of having good opinions and caring about the team. But how you handle yourself and how you work with people, that's even more important. And that was one of the first messages he hammered home to his staff.
That's kind of a fine line to it. Adams with a run, close to a first down. But yeah, I mean, you're a guy that's ambitious like Riley is, but at the same time, you're 19 years old in a Division I coaching room. And he said that he could have been better, learned in the process. I'm not sure he could say he would change anything with where he's at now.
How could you? I don't know if anyone expect him to be a head coach at a university like Oklahoma this soon, but they're lucky to have him. He is a bright star in this business.
UTEP bringing a corner blitz from the near side of the field, and they go the other way to Jordan Smallwood, who's got a gain of 9. A nice fall camp. One of the many receivers that did try to step into that void.
You got to love the fact that Baker Mayfield running this system, it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, he sees the pressure, he throws opposite, he knows where his quick answers are, and he executes.
He's completed his first 10 passes, one short of his career high to begin a game. Play action on 2nd and short, and Mark Andrews comes free for a first down inside the 40. Just like he was at Houston last year. Mayfield starts the game 11 for 11.
And Mayfield took a shot there. He got up a little bit gimpy. Dante kind of got him towards the end of that play. That's sort of the toughness that we're talking about. Look at big number 81, Mark Andrews, on the left side of your screen. Such a big target. He knows where the soft spots are in the zone coverage.
Already 4 catches. The Scottsdale, Arizona native. Sooners on the move in a drive that started back inside their own 10. Mayfield in a tight window for a first down reception for C.D. Lamb, the true freshman out of Richmond, Texas, down to the 16.
The thing I love about this most is Baker Mayfield recognized what the coverage was going to be. He signaled to C.D. Lamb before the play, and then he's able to throw an absolute strike into the true freshman. If there's one thing this young man possesses, the ability to go up and high point the football and make those tough catches. We saw that in high school, at Foster High School down in Richmond, Texas.
33 touchdowns in his senior season, one of the greatest high school seasons in Texas history. Mayfield floats it. Calcaterra, touchdown on his first career reception.
The true freshman out of Santa Margarita, California. He's 6'3", 230 pounds, and he can really go up and get the football. Baker Mayfield obviously realizing the size difference between number 27, Devin Cockrell, and Calcaterra,
who is Mark Andrews' backup at this point, but they have high hopes for him. Already getting involved here in his first career game.
What a luxury. Nice little 1-2 punch with both tight ends in the game at the same time.
Line drive, extra point is good. They go 92 yards in 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Grant Calcaterra with his first career touchdown, and Oklahoma leads it 21-7. Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen, is sponsored by Allstate, official protector of college football fans. Back in Norman, one of the great places to take in a college football game. And Baker Mayfield so far, perfect. 13 of 13. That's a career best start to a game.
And when you hear that passing efficiency record and quarterback rating, people probably don't know how those are comprised of, but it starts with your completion percentage, obviously your productions and yards and touchdowns. And what it really means is he's just playing a lot of good football right now, to put it simply.
I think one of the fascinating things about him is how many downfield shots he hits, while at the same time being so efficient, being so accurate.
I think it's his mobility. You know, he buys more time, so he really can wait till those guys get open. Doesn't have to rely on anticipation.
This is a touchback, gives us time for a game break. Hello again, Sam Farber.
Top 20 showdown, number 11 Michigan and number 17 Florida, and the Fighting Harbaughs have moved out in front. Wilton Spate to the freshman wide receiver Tariq Black, his first catch, a 46-yard touchdown at AT&T Stadium. 10-3 Michigan right now. Dylan Brady.
Thank you, Sam. What do you think of those uniforms?
I don't mind them. You know, the Jordan brand, they try to hook them up with something a little bit different for the first game of the season, so why not? I was more impressed with the back and forth between Jim Harbaugh and Jim McElwain and their rosters, depth charts, kind of the battle going back and forth between those two before the game even started.
Pretty good start to this game for Ryan Metz, 5 of 7. From the 25-yard line, they go play action on first down. Metz has an open man and a first down completion to Alan Busey, first-year JUCO transfer. Got a lot of different options that they're excited to watch develop. That receiver. There's a flag down here.
That big number 76, Will Hernandez pulling out, protecting Ryan Metz out in space.
Ineligible lineman downfield on the pass. Offense number 75. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
It's a right guard, Derek Elmendorf.
It's a bit surprising. I mean, that was a move the pocket pass play. So he had to have been more than 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. You see right there. I mean, he's about right there, but unfortunately it's because he kind of got thrown by Matt Romar a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if it was playing to his advantage.
Letter of the law, Brady.
Yeah.
First down 15. Against a 4-man rush, Metz has time to step into the pocket, down the sideline and incomplete over the head of Kavika Johnson. Good coverage from Robert Barnes.
And Will Hernandez getting into it a little bit with Matt Romar. There's a flag on this play, and it looked like there were some extracurriculars going on. Will Hernandez has a tough matchup today. You look at Matt Romar, number 92. You look at number 90, Neville Gallimore. I mean, both those guys, very tough to go up against up front, stout, strong at the point of attack. Good challenge for him, and I think for all those NFL evaluators that are out there looking at the senior, they're going to be looking at this game as maybe an indication of what he's going to look like at the next level.
Sean Kugler said he's their hardest working guy. He's their toughest guy, strongest guy in the program. Here's a call.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 92. 15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
And so it is on Romar.
And here's a shot of them battling. You see number 76 engaged with number 92. Hernandez trying to keep his hands on the inside. Look at him continue to fight. Oh, there's a shot to the helmet, though, by Matt Romar. And they're going to throw a flag every time they see something like that. Well, this is good preparation for Matt Romar. I'll tell you what, when they have to go to Columbus, Ohio and take on the Buckeyes next week, he better be prepared for a battle.
Kevin Dove comes in the game at running back, and the bowling ball straight ahead for 2 or 3, and down again to Bruce Feldman.
You guys aren't kidding about this guy's potential. When I talked to an NFL scout on Wednesday, they said Will Hernandez was the top-rated guard prospect in the country. He's got an interesting rise to stardom here because as a sophomore in high school, he was ready to give up football and work construction. His old high school coach, Bill Froman, told me he said he had to beg Hernandez's parents to let him play one more season, and he's really taken off. Had grades issues. USC and Arizona tried to get in on him, and UTEP hung with him. He qualified late, and here he is.
Is the headliner of this UTEP squad. There is a flag down as Lucero has that one sneak by him. A little bit sloppy midway here through the second.
Well, Mets had to get rid of the football there. He had Caleb Kelly right in his face on that boot. Lucero's got to get a little better feeling. The JUCO transfer, he's still developing that chemistry with his quarterback.
But Kugler is a fiery dude, isn't he? Big dude.
I saw him working out in the fitness room at the hotel. Having to stay in the same hotel, and he was getting after it, man.
Did you guys compare arms?
No chance.
No.
Illegal formation, offense, 5 in the backfield, 5-yard penalty, second down.
As I was kind of taking a look at the structure of their offensive line, it looked like they were starting to kind of all of a sudden get too far off the line of scrimmage. To go back and take a look, but I'm wondering if that was what the officials were looking at.
After a penalty-free first quarter, there have been 4 here in the second. And they now say that Oklahoma has declined the penalties, so it'll be 3rd down and 8. So they take the incompletion. And from the 37-yard line, here's a 3rd down.
There's number 31. Obo Okoronkwo, one of the best pass rushers in the country.
Here he comes with his hair on fire, and it's knocked down at the line of scrimmage by Neville Gallimore, making it 4th down.
Gallimore is that defensive tackle that, talking to Mike Scoops, their defensive coordinator, said it reminds me a little bit of the path of one Gerald McCoy, who's now with the Tampa Bay Bucks, a Pro Bowler. Number 90 working against Will Hernandez. I always teach the defensive tackles, if you can't get there in the pass rush, put your hands up. Bat down the football is just as good as getting, or almost getting a sack.
A couple of stops for Oklahoma's defense starting to settle in. Jeff Badette back to return this one. Kentucky transfer stumbles at the 10, and he's down. Oklahoma again backed into its own end, but UTEP's not had an answer for their offensive attack in a 21-7 game midway through the second.
Coming up on the State Farm halftime, not the start new Texas head coach Tom Herman had in mind. The early sights from the Michigan-Florida Top 20 showdown, and the Tigers maul Kent State as they open defense of their national title. Joe Brady, back to you.
All right, Rob will be sure to stick around for it as this first half rolls out with Oklahoma in front 21-7. Speaking of rolling, Baker Mayfield 13 for 13 to start. The true freshman Trey Sermon in the game for the first time takes the fake, and Jeff Badette takes the throw and gallops his way to the 30 on a gain of 20. Kentucky transfer, more than 20 yards a catch last year, one of the best in the country in that regard.
And he has elite speed. That's why they try to get him the football on those quick wide receiver screens out in space where he can take off for the big gains.
From the 29-yard line, Mayfield to throw again all day. Steps up in the pocket. It's collapsing. There's a flag down. Mayfield will run out of bounds. Again, there is a flag down around the line of scrimmage.
I'm not exactly sure what the wide receivers were expecting on the outside. I didn't see too many guys really working to get open. Kind of surprising.
Personal foul, hands to the face. Defense, number 85. 15-yard penalty added to the end of the run. First down.
It's on Sonny Buckingham, and it moves the ball out near midfield.
And Mayfield continued to stay patient in the pocket, but they had 3 men out in the routes, and no one really looked like they were working to get open. Take a look. Look at all 3 guys on the outside. It's kind of running off, but no one's really working to get back. Maybe Mark Andrews, but at that point, Baker Mayfield had to step up and move in the pocket. I think he got his eyes off of him.
On the 44, Mayfield again looking to throw off play action. A deep ball for Jeff Badette is underthrown. Still caught at the 5, and it's first and goal. 51 yards to Badette.
This is a shot play all the way to number 2, Jeff Badette, trying to get him up on a safety with his superior speed, but the ball's underthrown. The thing you got to love about it, though, is the ability of Badette to stop his feet, come back up, try to make a play on the football, and he comes down with the ridiculous catch.
Over Kahani Smith, first down and goal for the Sooners.
This is that area of the field where they like to try to throw to number 81, Mark Andrews.
Already 4 receptions today. On first and goal. Mayfield throwing. There he is. Mark Andrews, touchdown Oklahoma. Good call, Brady.
It's so tough to defend. With the rules in college football where you've got 3 yards of cushion where a lineman can be downfield, when you get in that area of the field, you can utilize this play action pass, and as a tight end, you can block and then release downfield where everyone sucks up on the run play. It's stealing.
He was due in his career. He's got a touchdown every 4 receptions. His first one of this season comes on his 5th. Oklahoma clicking on all cylinders. Baker Mayfield has matched his career high with 16 consecutive completions to start the year. Fox College Football is sponsored by Mitsubishi Motors, a century of innovation. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Gorgeous day here in Oklahoma. Temperature in the mid-80s. And Lincoln Riley's head coaching debut off to a good start, a 28-7 lead. His offense has scored on all 4 possessions, and his quarterback hasn't missed yet.
Unbelievable, the quarterback play we've seen in the state of Oklahoma this week. You had Mason Rudolph, Oklahoma State. He was 28-24, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Baker Mayfield said, okay, I'll do you one better. I haven't had an incompletion yet in this game, and not even out of the first half. So, both of these guys, I think, are legitimate Heisman contenders, and I think it's pretty cool to see where both programs are at.
Bedlam should be some party this year in early November. Could have a couple of additions. Who knows? Teams could meet up in the new Big 12 championship. Seibert's kick, not a good one. Out of bounds. Now, Baker Mayfield, you mentioned the 16 for 16. That's too short of an Oklahoma record.
And you look at how he does it. He was patient there in the pocket, finds his outlet and checks the football down. Then it's off of the play action pass down to seam to this big tight end, Mark Andrews. And yeah, he's not afraid to throw up some shots either. Calcaterra got in on the action. We just saw Jeff Badet on the last drive. That's the thing about Baker Mayfield within this offense. He's kind of asked to do so many different things, whether it's keeping the football in the zone read or the play action pass game or getting the ball out quick, some of the quick screens to the outside. And he manages it and handles it flawlessly.
Drive after the penalty starts at the 35. Ryan Metz. And it looked like the clock had run out, and it had. A delay of game on the first play of a drive. How's that happen?
That's the tough part. That's what happens in your first game of a season.
Delay of game, offense, 5-yard penalty. It's first down.
Well, for more on Baker Mayfield, let's go down to Bruce Feldman.
Guys, Baker Mayfield still has that edge that has made him the player he is. This summer he was asked if getting arrested in Arkansas may have hurt his chances for winning a Heisman. He just kind of shrugged his shoulders and goes, well, it's not going to hurt my chances at winning a national title.
I mean, probably true about that.
First down 15 from the 30. Here's Walter Dawn spinning his way in the wrong direction with a flag down. And Dawn down on a loss of 5. Parnell Motley with the tackle.
Personal foul, hands to the face, defense number 92, 15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
That's 2 on Romar now. And again, you talked about first game of the season, going through some issues, whether it's a delay of game that we saw from UTEP the last play. You're also seeing a little bit as far as technique-wise is how Romar's playing.
Oklahoma, one of the least penalized teams in the Big 12 last year. Only 2 on them today. They just both happen to be on Romar. Moves it up to the 45 on first down. Dawn behind Hernandez, bouncing to the edge. And Walter Dawn scampering to midfield where he's forced out by Jordan Thomas. Converted receiver, Walter Dawn, at just 5'6", 175 pounds. They graduated their all-time leading rusher in Aaron Jones, and then the guy that they expected to take over in Quandres Wadley is out with a shoulder injury, so that led them to moving a guy to running back to be the season opening starter.
Walter Dawn's obviously not very big. You mentioned his size, but it's pretty physical for his size as far as how he runs with the football.
Productive day for him so far with those 50 yards. Takes the fake on second down. Metz is flush. Floats one incomplete. Over the head of Keenan Foster, third down.
Obviously a bit of an overthrow there from Ryan Metz, but you gotta love the pocket movement. A deep play action pass set. He felt the pressure off the edge, ran up in the pocket. Sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do is when you're running forward to then find those touch throws because of your momentum coming with you as you run forward in the pocket.
We talked about him off of the top, keeping his cool in this environment, not giving the ball to Oklahoma. 2 for 2 on that. He's been impressive.
Needs to be impressive on third down. This is really where he's going to be tested and where he can try to get his team back into the game.
Sooners drop 8 into coverage, so tight windows to look through. He has to dump it off, and no chance for Dawn to cut it upfield. It's fourth down.
They want to give some thought to going for it here. It looks like UTEP's going to elect to punt, continue to play the field position battle. Look, at this point in the game, you're down by 3 scores. Why not give it an opportunity to go for it on fourth down? Their execution on third down earlier in the game, they were 2 for 2. They've struggled since then.
And especially, it hadn't mattered where Oklahoma started. They've driven the ball down the field easily. Badet signals for a fair catch. Goes over his head and bounces into the end zone. Hard to do it much better than Alan Luna just did, but coverage team unable to make it stand up. Another game break. Hello again, Sam Farber.
Number 11, Michigan was up 7 on number 17, Florida at AT&T Stadium, but the Wolverines starting to throw some picks here. C.J. Henderson taking this one 41 yards for the score. That less than 2 minutes after another Florida pick six. Hooters down 10 players due to suspension. They're up 17-10 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that Florida team may be missing some players, but they do not lack talent, in particular on the defensive side of the football. They've been a solid defensive team under Jim McElwain.
Oklahoma 5 drives, 4 touchdowns for him.
Beginning from the 20-yard line.
Baker Mayfield 16 of his first 16. Too short of the school record for consecutive completions, regardless of to begin the game or not. A hole off the right side for Trey Sermon. True freshman for a gain of 8. He's out of Marietta, Georgia, was one of the nation's top recruits, and like I see so many guys do in this day and age, was an early enrollee.
And he's the biggest of this running back group. He has some nifty feet. He can make some moves. A little space.
Rodney Anderson comes in, runs for a first down, tackled by Alvin Jones. Well, Anderson, a good story in that he is finally healthy after dealing with so many injuries the last 2 seasons. Missed all of last year with a broken neck that he suffered during fall camp. Had him in a neck brace for 3 months. Missed almost all of with a leg injury. Suffered that on his first career carry in that game at Tennessee. Up at 22, Mayfield steps into a collapsing pocket and heaves it downfield for Marquise Brown. It's incomplete. Good coverage, Kalon Beverly. 2nd and 10.
Well, Mayfield was trying to work towards number 17, Jordan Smallwood. You'll see him looking to his left. He starts to come back to the right as he scrambles up into the pocket, decides just to take a shot, and he's got a strong enough arm to stretch the field. And very questionable there. Yeah, it should have been interference. The defender never really looked back to make a play on the football, and I think there might have been enough contact there where he could justify throwing a flag.
First time we've seen him take a shot for Brown, who is first-year junior college transfer, who has a ton of speed. Mayfield keeps this one. Dancing around, trying to make something out of nothing, and does at least get past the line of scrimmage, pushed out by Cockrell. Maybe trying to do too much there?
Yeah, I don't think that was the read. You know, unless it was a design keep, he should give that football in that zone read scheme. His key went with him, and that's why he had to redirect field and come back where the running back was supposed to go.
Got 2 yards, 3rd and 8 in the closing minutes of this first half.
Had such good production on 1st and 2nd down. We haven't seen them have too many 3rd downs.
Miners showing pressure and bringing 5. Mayfield over the middle into the vacated area for Mark Andrews, and look at the big man move outside, inside the 25 and down to the 21, and a gain of 43.
They're going to have to start playing more man-to-man coverage, because right here, number 81, Mark Andrews, he can find the soft spots in your zone coverage. And you can see the linebacker was trying to pass off Mark Andrews, but as he goes vertical, that's that soft spot and that split safety zone coverage.
Mayfield already over 300 yards on 17 of 18. Bunch 3 into the short side of the field. Pump short. Over the middle again. Andrews again. First down and goal on his 7th catch.
For 255 pounds, he moves incredibly well. Very agile. Able to skip around in that zone coverage and find the soft spots. What about the connection and the chemistry that Baker Mayfield has with Mark Andrews? Right when he's out of the break, I mean, the ball's coming.
Already almost a quarter of the way to his receptions total from all of last year. Came out later that he was dealing with a shoulder injury for much of the season. Healthy now. But then the motion man. Straight ahead, Rodney Anderson for a short gain.
Well, if there's one guy that's flashed in this UTEP defense, it's number 27, safety Devin Cockrell. He came up to make that stop. If not for him, that's a touchdown.
But that takes the fig this time. Mayfield back of the end zone, wide open for the touchdown is C.D. Lamb, the first of his career.
The true freshman out of Richmond, Texas. See number 9, he's going to work all the way across the back end line and just gets lost in the UTEP coverage. And the misdeception, look at Baker Mayfield calmly just finds him in the back of the end zone. Didn't have Dimitri Flowers. We saw the true freshman, a star in the making. Coaching staff was saying that it'll go from everyone talking about Dede to CD.
And remember, going into last season, everyone was wondering how they would replace Sterling Shepard's production. Nobody necessarily saw Westbrook doing what he did. Back to Norman in 30 seconds. C.D. Lamb certainly doesn't look like a true freshman. He's got his first touchdown. Coming up at halftime, stay tuned with Rob and Dave and Matt. Robert for the State Farm halftime show. Not a good debut for Tom Herman down at Texas. We updated you a couple times on the top 20 matchup between Michigan and Florida. Clemson trying to defend its title off to a good start against Kent State. All that and more coming up at halftime.
Baker Mayfield, 19 for 20. If not for that incompletion, that was kind of a questionable no call, pass interference. Still be perfect.
Yeah, 19 of 20. And a touchback. College football action continues tomorrow night from the Rose Bowl. Texas A&M with its first ever trip there to take on UCLA. Josh Rosen. What do you think of Josh Rosen coming into this year?
He could be one of the most talented passers, if not the most in the country. Just one, he's got to stay healthy. Couldn't last year. And he's got to deal with the third time a new offensive coordinator. Jed Fish will be his offensive coordinator this year, and I actually think it's going to be a great fit for Josh Rosen. I really do think he'll take that next step that everyone out of UCLA is looking for.
Minute 46 to work with, just one timeout for UTEP. On first down, Mets. Brady Senegal, who's quickly tackled. We go down to Bruce.
Guys, I visited with Kevin Sumlin a couple of weeks ago for a feature that's going to run in the pregame tomorrow, and I asked him, said, you guys get off to these fast starts and then you end up 8-5 every year, it seems like. I said, how is this year going to be different? He pointed to a new strength and conditioning program. He said it is radically different than what they'd done before. He said our off season's different, we're practicing different. He goes, I feel really good about the direction we're going in. Of course, they haven't played a game yet.
Bruce don't care, throwing shade at Kevin.
He's never
8-5 every year, coach.
Never afraid to ask the tough questions.
Second down and 5. That's over the middle and incomplete behind Kavika Johnson.
It's going to be a late hit on Caleb Kelly. Ryan Metz did a good job of getting rid of the football, really retreating so he didn't take a sack. One of the no-nos. I wonder if the officials are maybe discussing if he would have had the opportunity to pull off of hitting Ryan Metz to the ground.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 19. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's on the sophomore from Fresno, California, who really broke onto the scene with the Sugar Bowl. I mean, he started the second half of the season, but that was his coming out party against Auburn.
He's so versatile. Caleb Kelly can do so many different things, whether it's rush the passer or be good in coverage, stopping the run game. He's really got a bright future. He lost a guy in Jordan Evans to eligibility, and Caleb Kelly's kind of the guy that he reminds me of.
1 minute to go, 45-yard line, 1st and 10. Mets under pressure. There's Okoronkwo with his first sack of the season. He had a breakout season a year ago with 9 sacks, and they expect more of the same this year.
In a must-pass situation, it plays in the hands of Oklahoma. Look at the matchup on the left side of your screen. That's Logan Tully-Tillman. And eventually, Okoronkwo is going to have the opportunity to get to the quarterback if you hold on the football that long. And if you'll notice, he beat him to the inside. Tully-Tillman's got to know that he had help from his running back on the outside, so he's got to set a little bit harder on the inside, and if anything, push him by. Let him go uphill to the outside where your running back can give you help.
Oh, wow, he was buried on the depth chart. Some really good players here. Eric Stryker, Devontae Bond, but finally the guy, and is taking full advantage. There is a flag down as Marquez Overton makes the tackle.
illegal formation. Offense number 77 was lined up in the backfield. The penalties decline. Third down.
That's Gerard Brooks, number 77. And what's happening is these linemen know how fast the Oklahoma defensive front is, so they're trying to give themselves help by playing further off the line of scrimmage. So when you get a look down the line, it looks almost like a V formation.
That is going to do it for this first half. Oklahoma's offense really impressive, especially Baker Mayfield. 35-7 after a half in Lincoln Riley's head coaching debut. Rob Stone and the guys in LA take it away for the State Farm halftime show.
Cause we're gonna be legends, gonna get their attention. What we're doing here ain't just scary, it's about to be legendary.
Back on Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen here in Norman, where Oklahoma after a bit of a sluggish start. UTEP hung around, but they pulled away as we look at our Geico first half stats. 35-7 score. That offense really impressive. More than 400 yards of offense in the first half. And a lot of that had to do with the guy pulling the trigger, Baker Mayfield. Really good so far.
Flawless, or at least near flawless. 19 for 20, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers. And when you look at really what Baker Mayfield's asked to do in this system, it's a variety of things. Sometimes he's got to be patient and poised and find the check down for the conversion and first down. Sometimes it's a play action pass game. Big throws over the middle in tight windows, and other times it's throwing the deep ball. Giving his wide receivers and tight ends opportunities to go up and make plays. That's the thing that really impresses you most about Baker Mayfield, really, is his command in this system. He feels like he's truly an extension of what Lincoln Riley wants to see out there on the field.
19 for 20 in his lone incompletion. You could argue that there should have been pass interference on it. He completed his first 16 throws in this game. Well, UTEP to start the second half with the ball from the 25-yard line. We check in with Bruce Feldman.
Guys, I talked to Lincoln Riley going into the break, and I said, well, you know, anything you could find wrong? He goes, yeah, the one thing that bothered me was the personal foul penalties. We had 3 of them. We got to be more disciplined on defense, but he loves how his newcomers and young receivers have really stepped up. When I talked to Sean Kugler on the other side, I said, what can you do to slow Baker Mayfield down? He goes, we got to find a way to contain that tight end. So how do you do that? He goes, I don't know. You got any ideas? And he laughed and walked away.
He's not going to be the only guy stumped in trying to defend Mark Andrews this year. And Lincoln Riley's offense continues to handle the play calling duties, by the way, even though he is now running the show.
That's the predicament. They're so balanced, it's tough to stop a tight end like that because they run the ball so well.
Mets begins the second half with a boot, and across his body it's dropped off of the hands of Josh Weeks. You know, UTEP tied this game at 7 with an impressive opening drive, but since then less than a yard per play.
Yeah, I think if you're an Oklahoma fan, you want to be nitpicky. It's really one drive where UTEP had some success. Really Ryan Metz on third down as well, converting. But since then, it's been airtight, and this offensive line for UTEP have struggled to be able to move the line of scrimmage in the run game and really protect their quarterback, Ryan Metz.
Started the game 4 for 5. He's now 7 of 14. On 2nd and 10 from the 25. First carry of the second half for Walter Dawn. Loses a yard as Jordan Thomas makes the tackle from his cornerback spot.
Jordan Thomas, potentially one of the best corners in the country, and he's the complete package. He's got the size you look for at 6 feet tall with the long arms and reach. He's also tough against the run. He'll come up and make plays. So we're looking at Kenneth Murray hobbling off the field, the true freshman who started at the middle linebacker position today.
Already lost Jordan Parker to a leg injury. He went back to the locker room in the first half. Here, Murray comes off. On 3rd down and 11, he has to get rid of it. Too high and incomplete. Mark Jackson Jr., sophomore from Texas, who they've got high hopes for, applied the pressure.
Mike Scoops described him as a player with a really high ceiling. Kind of reminds you a little bit of that body and frame of Obo Okoronkwo. We take a look at defensive coordinator Mike Stoops. He's got to be pleased with how this defense has really responded after the only scoring drive for UTEP today.
They force a 3-and-out to open the second half. Here's Jeff Badette with a fair catch at the 30. Another impressive punt for Alan Luna, averaging about 47 yards a pop so far today. Well, there's Kyler Murray. Wonder if we're going to see him already.
It would make some sense. I mean, you'd like to get him some experience in the system in a live game. Clearly, if anything happened to Baker Mayfield, the way he plays, scrambling around, making plays with his feet sometime, you never know. So you got to prepare that backup, and this is one of the most talented college quarterbacks in the country. When you look at Kyler Murray's ability running the football and the live arm that he has.
Lincoln Riley told us yesterday he thinks Kyler Murray is the single most explosive quarterback in the country, and he's the backup. After redshirting last year, his first play at Oklahoma, he pulls on a replay and gets 5 yards with a flag down. Michael Lewis, the tackle.
Holding. Offense, number 58. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
For more on Kyler Murray, we go down to Bruce.
Joe, Kyler Murray is the most dynamic athlete in the Oklahoma program. He's the fastest guy on the team. Started his career out at Texas A&M, where his dad was a terrific quarterback as well. He's also a really, really good baseball player, but don't think he's just a runner because he's fast. He's really got a pretty live arm, and I think Lincoln Riley wants to flash him and show what he can do for a lot of other people to keep an eye on when they look at film of the Sooners.
The penalty moves him back, first down and 20. High snap pulled down, and his first throw is into traffic and incomplete. Max Preps put out a list a couple of weeks ago. Best high school players over the last decade.
Yeah.
They named him the single best quarterback at the high school level in the last 10 years.
Gatorade National Player of the Year coming out of high school. He actually played the Under Armour All-American game, both in football and baseball. Yeah. He's the only player to have ever done that. You can see part of that live arm in the last throw, however, is a little bit of a team meeting. You got to wonder, his challenge is to be at 5'10". Can he see over this big offensive line in front of him?
Abdul Adams off the left side, chopped down by Devin Cockrell, who continues to impress, and it's 3rd and long.
This is the scenario where Kyler Murray's escapability and mobility will come into play in 3rd and long. If nothing's there, he can tuck it and run and still pick up a first down, even though it seems bleak.
Adams motions out, so it's empty on 3rd and 20. Aiden coverage, so he's got all day to throw. Instead will run and slide down to the 27.
And he's going to be upset with himself because he was looking left. He just wasn't patient enough. He had number 3, Michael Jones, running wide open up the sideline. Watch right here, number 3. As he passes by Julian Jackson, wide open for a touchdown.
Baker saw the same thing.
He was looking that way. You just, sometimes you got to slow down your heart rate, be a little patient, make sure you trust what you see.
Terry Janelle, talented punt returner, but a short one from Seibert comes up to catch it at the 41. A few minutes into this second half, Oklahoma cruising against UTEP on a gorgeous day to start the college football season. Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen, is sponsored by SoFi, a modern finance company that actually helps you get ahead. By Go RVing, find your way, Go RVing. And by AT&T. Back in Norman, all Oklahoma in this one, trying to get their 11th consecutive win, the longest active streak in the country here in Lincoln Riley's head coaching debut.
Nice little warm-up game before what they've got coming next week, having to go on the road.
against the old Buckeyes.
What did you think of Ohio State's start against Indiana?
You know, first game this season, they had a slow start, ended up pulling away in the second half. It's one of the toughest defensive fronts they may see all year.
Indiana?
No, Ohio State's defensive front.
Oh, yeah. Drive begins at the 41. Josh Fields, a redshirt freshman with his first carry. That tripped up by Emmanuel Beal.
Beal coming in for injured Kenneth Murray early. He's got some experiences. Go back and take a look at the last play. Should have been a face mask, clearly. As you can see, Beal grabbing the face mask of Joshua Fields, the true freshman out of El Paso, Texas.
Out of a Wildcat here. It's Kavika Johnson, who was a quarterback in high school and came to UTEP as well, but he's moved to receiver. Takes it straight ahead for a yard, and it's 3rd down.
And they've used Kavika Johnson from time to time in that manner. That's how offensive coordinator Brent Peace likes to kind of showcase different looks when you go up against this UTEP offense. And sometimes that's just a way of trying to jumpstart things because they've pretty much stalled. After the earlier drive in the first quarter, driving down the field for a touchdown, they really haven't been able to get any momentum on offense since.
And 3rd down's been a big issue. They converted both tries on that first drive. 0 for 5 since.
Protection's been the biggest issue. They got to find a way of protecting Ryan Metz.
And a flag flies. The left tackle, Tully Tillman, was moving early as Will Johnson came flying in.
Offside. Defense number 12 came into the neutral zone, causing a reaction. 5-yard penalty. It's 3rd down.
Well, instead, they get Johnson, and it'll make it a 3rd down and more manageable.
Wasn't quite sure if Will Johnson had gotten all the way into the neutral zone to entice Logan Tully Tillman to move. You also got to wonder, too, maybe Sean Kugler would say, hey, this is an area where if we don't pick up a first down here, it's still go for it on 4th down. Haven't been able to stop the Oklahoma offense.
On 3rd and 3, Metz looks to throw and swings it outside for Walter Dawn. Make that Josh Fields, and he's crunched by Neville Gallimore over from his tackle spot.
That's the type of effort that you want to see from your defensive tackle, covering down. Beal was able to slow up Joshua Fields, and then it was Gallimore to really come in with the hammer on the end of that play. Wow.
6'2", 310. With a free shot. And the punt team comes out on 4th and 4. One of the lone bright spots today has been Alan Luna. This is a line drive taken by Rodney Anderson. And he spins his way to the 23.
Rodney Anderson on the return.
Sooners in front 35-7. Everything going right for Oklahoma today. We're back to Norman after this. Fox College football presented by Volkswagen is sponsored by Walmart. Save money, live better. This Heisman Trophy winner here at Oklahoma is Sam Bradford. They hope that they have another coming this season. For Baker Mayfield, perhaps. How about your hopefuls early on this year?
Clearly, you got to include Lamar Jackson with what he did last season, but Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's on pace to only throw 12 incompletions the entire season right now. He's going to be a part of that conversation. Sam Darnold, the phenomenal quarterback out at USC, and maybe the best player in the country, and Saquon Barkley. I think Scarborough could be in the conversation because of how good Alabama will be, and he'll be a big part of it.
Connor Murray's in the game for Mayfield. His second possession begins with a throw into the flats for Marcellus Sutton, who breaks a tackle and cuts it across the 40. Bruce, what do you got?
I actually agree with Brady. I think Saquon Barkley is the best running back and probably the best player in the country. I really like Baker's chances. This O-line is really good. I'm not sure I'm buying Bo Scarborough, though. I think that's a little bit of an Alabama bias that Brady's throwing in there.
I think if Alabama ends up playing in the college football playoff, there's a good chance he's going to be a big reason.
Another strike from Murray to Calcaterra for a first down. Noticeably absent from that list, though, is Mason Rudolph.
And I think he's a guy who made a case Thursday night, and he'll continue to. But look, it ends up going a lot of times to one of the best players, one of the best teams in the country. So whoever wins the Big 12, that quarterback's going to have the edge, I think, at least when you're talking about the Heisman.
Rodney Anderson, short game.
Love the play calling early in this drive, really getting Kyler Murray an easy completion in the flat to Marcellus Sutton to start it off, and then really starting to get Kyler Murray into a rhythm.
And that was Sutton there, not Anderson.
It's one thing that I think Lincoln Riley doesn't get enough credit for is the way he builds confidence in his quarterbacks. He gets them easy completions early, starts to kind of build that momentum so they can take that into feeling more confident in some of the tougher throws.
Steps into this one. It's a strike, and it is a touchdown for Lee Morris. There is a flag down in the backfield.
Personal foul, roughing the passer with targeting. Defense number 16. The previous play is under further review. The result of the play, touchdown.
So that's on Elvin Jones, who would be ejected if this is upheld.
We'll have to take another look.
All right, Jack Mack, the ruling on the field by both Dan and...
I think what you're going to see is number 16, Alvin Jones, at the end of the play. He bursts through the line of scrimmage, and he makes contact with Kyler Murray after he releases the football. So take a look right here. See, as he comes through at the very end of the play, you can see him make contact with Murray, knocking him back on the ground. Oh.
Got our rules experts back in Los Angeles. Of course, Mike Pereira, new to the crew this year, Dean Blandino, the former senior VP of officiating in the NFL. Guys, how did you see this one?
Well, I don't know. I'll turn to you, Dean. You can have your first shot at this. Do we have an indicator here?
Yeah, and that's what we need to look for, an indicator. It looks like he leaves his feet. He's springing upward in a launching type action, and that would be an indicator, and the hit does look high. Don't think they're going to be able to overturn this.
And remember, he's defenseless. So he's in the category of being defenseless, so you can't go to the head or neck area with your helmet, arm, forearm, hand, anything. So to me, based on what we've been able to see, I think you got to stay with this.
Forcible, right? Forcible contact's kind of the word, or the trigger word we'd like to see there, and that's what you're talking about, Dean, when you can kind of see him launching like that.
Exactly. It has to be forcible contact, so incidental contact wouldn't be a foul. And like Mike said, the quarterback in the act of passing is defenseless, so you can't go to the head-neck area.
You know, my concern is Kyler Murray's 5'10", and I know that's not an excuse, and Alvin Jones is only a little bit taller, maybe 5'11", 6 foot. But it's obviously tougher. I mean, I guess it's on the defender. He's got to change that hit area. But, you know, how do officials look at it when it's a smaller player?
And that's actually, it's a good point, but it doesn't factor in because total liability is on the defender. So even if body angles change...
The ruling on the field is confirmed. Number 16 is disqualified from the game. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the ensuing kickoff. We'll try for a point.
So even Brady, as we were talking about, even though the body angle of that defensive player might change, how he even might duck to protect himself from contact, it's still really on the defender. 100% liability on him. He has to figure out how to stay off the head or neck area.
Great stuff, guys. As always, the best in the business. And that's why they're here to help give us explanations, especially in regards to targeting, because I know it's a subject that a lot of people get frustrated about because they realize it's going to hurt their team, especially when a player is ejected. But again, you're talking about safety in the game of football, and that's most important.
Rich get richer. We had Dean Blandino to Mike Pereira back there to help out with the rules this year. So Alvin Jones thrown out of the game for a targeting. as Murray throws his first touchdown in a Sooner uniform. The route is on in this one. Get ready to start your day with First Things First, weekday mornings on FS1. Chris Carter and Nick Wright kick off the day with the latest in sports. It premieres Tuesday at 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1.
I know you're excited about seeing that. You're an early riser.
Yeah, for me on the West Coast, that's maybe a little early, but 3:30.
Really? I thought you usually get up around that time.
I will for them, for Chris and Nick.
Okay.
Melvin Jones leaving the field after the targeting, and not only does he have to leave the field for this one, he will miss the first half of their next game.
And he was a major part of that UTEP defense, returning leading tackler from a year ago.
With the penalty enforced on this kickoff, Kyle Fowl buries it in the end zone. Time for a game break. Hello, Greg Wolf.
All right, Joe, thank you. Let's go to the Coliseum. Number 4 USC, their highest preseason ranking since 2012, taking on the reigning MAC champs Western Michigan. Ronald Jones, 16 yards for the score. Broncos, though, would answer. It's tied at 7 in the first. Joe, Brady, back to you.
All right, Greg, what do you think about the Trojans coming into the year, Brady?
I think they're going to have a great chance to win the Pac-12 South. You know, it doesn't seem like there's as much competition, but it's really going to come down to the Pac-12 championship game, whether it's Washington, as we saw them beat Rutgers last night, and really Stanford, who I think is going to be very competitive. And I think Oregon. We've got a chance to go out and watch Oregon next week. I think they're a team to look out for in the Pac-12 North.
Empty set from the 25-yard line. He zips a slant. Eddie Senegal hangs on to it for a gain of 8.
I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that really impresses me on film about Ryan Metz is it's his accuracy and then the 3-step game. And in shotgun, it's really 1 step, but he is pinpoint accurate. You know, when he decides where he wants to go with the football, he can really stick it in there in the tightest of windows.
The arm strength has really improved for Metz over the years, especially over this last summer. The balls that they normally saw kind of die and flutter towards the end of the throw, really finishing. 9 of 17 in this one. Stacked up at the line of scrimmage is Dawn. Kenneth Murray with a stop along with Tyrese Lott.
You know, Don's that wide receiver converted to running back because of their predicament at the running back position with the injury to Wadley. But, you know, that was probably a scenario where he could have bounced it outside, but earlier in the game, he ended up doing that, kind of got reamed by his head coach when he came off the sidelines because it ended up resulting in a holding penalty. Wonder if he was maybe a little bit shy of wanting to go outside.
I would be if Sean Cougar got into me. They're down and short. Kevin Dove comes in. Short yardage back for the Miners as a first down, dragging Murray for a gain of 5 behind Will Hernandez.
Watch number 76, called the get off the football. Watch him be able to fire down on number 97, Marquise Overton. He ends up moving that line of scrimmage to give way for the first down. It's that initial point of attack that really helps give you that push. So I think, look, I understand the performance today clearly wasn't what I don't think any UTEP fan or the team was hoping for, but they still have a chance in the Conference USA.
That's into the short side. That's a completion to Tyler Batson. What have you thought overall of Will Hernandez?
As advertised. I mean, you see him at the point of attack. He is incredibly strong. He's done a better job of keeping his hands inside. I think he's really done his job up front in the run game, or really in pass protection. You look at him as a prospect to play on Sundays. He's a guy to keep your eye on in the future. There's going to be one of those offensive lineman needy teams in the NFL. They always talk about how they're not able to find the guys who are developed and ready to go. Will Hernandez is a guy, because of the system they run at UTEP, you can plug him in right away and play him.
On 2nd and 4, here comes Dove. No gain. Lost the football. We'll see who's on it. Oklahoma thinks they have it.
On the defense, first down.
And it is recovered by the Sooners. Marquez Overton with a fumble recovery.
Overton, the former high school wrestler, wrestled a little bit here at OU. finds a way to wrestle the football out at the bottom of the pile.
Guy that missed most of last season with an ankle injury. Junior from Jenks, powerhouse program in Tulsa. Able to get on top of it.
It's hard to tell, but I think it was his own player
that knocked it out.
Yeah, and a lot of times as a running back, you don't suspect that you're an offensive lineman or fullback is going to get blown back into you, or you're going to hit them along the course of trying to hit the hole. And a lot of times that ends up being the guy that jars a ball loose because you don't have it quite as secure to your body.
Well, the Sooners take over at the 45 in UTEP territory. Kyler Murray. Left side, nothing doing, lost a yard. Dedrick Simpson with the tackle. I think one of the encouraging things, not encouraging, but fun things about today for Oklahoma, regardless of the scores, that we're seeing a lot of names that are going to be new to a lot of Sooner fans that they can be excited about.
Yeah, I think it's also to help provide depth and really getting that live game experience that you really can't simulate until you get to the course of the regular season. It's not like the NFL where you have preseason games to get an idea of what these guys can do. You have to put them out there on the field in the real live game scenario.
Here's Sermon. And Trey Sermon close to a first down. Yeah, there's anxiety coming into a college opener regardless, and you throw on top of that, it's your first one ever if you're Lincoln Riley. If he was feeling any nerves, he was doing a good job of faking it when we saw him yesterday, that he wasn't feeling any kind of nerves.
He seemed as relaxed and as calm as you'd want your quarterback to be, or maybe I should say Baker Mayfield has been today with the way he played. That's part of it. I mean, look at the situation that he's adopting. Offensive line that's ready to protect their quarterback, who's a legitimate Heisman candidate, and all sorts of talent on defense.
Third down, less than a yard. They go back to Sermon, whose second surge has a first down and more. Up inside the 30. Take a look at the Jeep stack comparison in this one. UTEP was right there early in the game as far as yardage and yards per play, but the Oklahoma defense has really buckled down. And even though they've gone from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray, this OU offense has kept on rolling.
One of the things that we've talked about coming into today's game is that change from a 3-4 to a 4-3 for Oklahoma's defense. And the reason being is they want to get more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They want to get more negative plays. And as you'll describe it, they want to be more on angles. When you play in a 3-4, you've got guys head up on the offensive lineman. It makes it harder for them to be able to shoot those gaps to try to get penetration.
Got it out of his hand quickly, and Jordan Smallwood with a short gain.
It's almost like he's a shortstop back there.
Yeah.
I mean, just watching the way Kyler Murray's able to get the ball out of his hand quickly in shotgun is impressive.
He's played some baseball here at Oklahoma, played in the Cape Cod Collegiate Summer League this past summer. Took some time away from his football preparation to do that, and still was able to win the backup job for Austin Kendall. Kendall will redshirt.
Kendall's a talented player.
Yeah. Sermon able to slip an arm tackle and get a first down inside the 20. DeMar Smith, the tackle for UTEP. Sermon, a guy who some people have already made comparisons to Samaje Perine and how advanced he was when he arrived as a freshman.
Yeah, he was a little banged up towards the end of camp, so they were curious to see how he performed today. He looks to be 100%, running at a high level. But clearly the biggest of all their running backs. They're going to need that. You need a change up. You need one of those bigger style running backs to physically, impose the defense and wear them down in the second half of games.
Murray pulls this one and slips, getting a couple yards.
I mean, if he would have kept his feet, there was some room to make some moves. And for anyone who's seen Kyler Murray in his past, I mean, this young man can make a lot happen in a short amount of time. But a couple times I feel like he should have just given the football off. And look, this is an opportunity he gets to play. You don't know how many more times he will this season, so I'm sure he's eager to keep the football and try to make some plays when he can.
Jeff Badette on the sweep. Gets around the corner, cuts it upfield, and Badette inside the 5 to make it 1st and goal. Boy, he has wasted no time showing some of the big play potential they touted.
And the reason why this play works is because of Badette's speed. Once they get to the edge, he simply just outruns the defensive pursuit and their angles. Also goes down as a pass for Murray. Some of my favorite parts about that play is it's a high completion percentage. There's really not much downside. As we take a look at an injured Minor on the field.
And you get into a stage of an opener like this, a team like UTEP and Oklahoma at this point too, all you're hoping is that you can get out of here as healthy as possible. It's Dedrick Simpson.
Obviously good coverage downfield, or good hustle by Simpson.
Good to see him walk off under his own power. Oklahoma will have it 1st and goal from the UTEP 1.
A lot of budding stars down there for the Oklahoma offense. Look at number 9, C.D. Lamb. Already 1 touchdown reception today.
Yeah, everybody's gotten involved. Lee Morris had a touchdown. Rodney Anderson's already got one. He's in there running back here. They spread the love to Jackson Yules and get him a touchdown. Feed the fullback. Love it.
Former walk-on, now on scholarship. Was not only rewarded not having to pay tuition, now he gets a little love. Able to get a touchdown.
7 touchdowns today from 7 different Sooners.
And that's the Lincoln Riley offense. You know, they make you have to defend so many different people in so many different ways. These fullbacks are utilized not just as lead blockers. They also hand the football off to them in short yardage and goal line situations. And everything else is built off of that. I think that's the thing that we've seen from Lincoln Riley since he got to Oklahoma is whatever they do in the run game, they've got a boot action or play action off of it to hurt you in the passing game.
Seibert knocks it through, and the Sooners on top 49-7. 1 minute left to go in the 3rd quarter of this opener.
Be humble. Sit down.
College football action continues tonight on Fox and FS1. After our game, Big Ten ACC come together. Reigning Heisman winner Lamar Jackson against Purdue and Indy. And then at 10:30 on FS1. Washington State, a team that could be dangerous in the Pac-12, plays its season opener against Montana State.
And led by quarterback Luke Falk, who, one of those guys who's jumping up the draft boards. More people watch him, the more they like him. And they could contend too. I think they lost some pieces on defense that may hurt them going into this year. But what about Lamar Jackson? Maybe the most electrifying player in college football. 51 total touchdowns last year. Our colleague Joel Klatt sat down with him. He said, I've gotten better at everything. Believe it or not, if that's even possible. Well, good to see tonight.
Yet it seems like nobody's even talking about it. After winning the Heisman a year ago, he said that does not go unnoticed, that he's not getting a ton of love, despite being the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. Let's check in again with Greg Wolf for a game break.
Joe, thanks. Let's go to AT&T Stadium. Number 11, Michigan trailed 17-ranked Florida at the half. Here's Karen Higdon, 3-yard score. Wolverines have added 2 field goals since. They lead at 26-17, and Florida has pulled their quarterback. Notre Dame transfer Malik Zaire has come in since Brady wasn't available. Guys.
I don't have any eligibility left, and it would be the wrong team anyway. I'm not going to play for the Gators.
No. Oklahoma going to use a timeout here.
Oklahoma
We saw Jordan Parker leave the game earlier with what looked like a leg injury. Bruce, you've got an update on him.
Yeah, Joe, Jordan Parker is done for the day. He's in sweats. He's got a brace on his left knee, and he's got crutches. A lot of his teammates and former teammates who are here for the game have been consoling him over the last hour or so, coming up to put their arm around him.
Tough to deal with. Very, very talented player. Obviously, starting experience, and you're going to need talent like that, players like that, as you head into the beat in your schedule. You got to go on the road to Columbus next week. For anyone who saw them play against Indiana, they've got some talent at wide receiver. They've got a quarterback in JT Barrett who can distribute the football. Paris Campbell, Johnny Dixon, a lot of speed on the outside for Ohio State.
New quarterback in the game for the Miners, Zach Greenlee. Started last year as the starter before Metz took over midseason. The senior out of Stockton, California, drops it off to David Lucero. He's got a first down across the 40.
Talking with head coach Sean Kugler before the game, he really identified David Lucero as a player in the system that he felt like could excel because of his ability to play in line at the tight end position, but also outside as a wide receiver. Take a look at Ryan Metz now, playing the part of the backup, signaling the play in.
The numbers not popping off the page, but what'd you think overall?
He had a solid start. I just think at the end of the day, too big of a mismatch up front. They really couldn't get much going, couldn't protect him the way they wanted to, and they tried. They had 7- and 8-man protections, but Oklahoma's still getting pressure on him.
Greenlee being chased and running out of room, so he throws it away. Kenneth Mann in pursuit. It'll be 2nd and 10.
And pregame, you could see the size differential between the two teams. I mean, you knew UTEP was going to be in a little bit of trouble. I think clearly the two schools recruit differently. And Sean Kugler's in a position now where they've got a number of transfers they're trying to implement into his system. Some young players as well that we've seen a little bit here today. They're trying to get some playing time.
Started 1-5 a year ago and 3-3 down the stretch. Gathered some momentum coming into this year. That's knocked down at the line of scrimmage. They try to set up the screen for Batson.
Like number 15, Addison Gums, true freshman out of Hayward, California. Talked about at the beginning of the game, 5 true freshmen on the 2 deep. Something that's kind of rare at Oklahoma, but a lot of talented players.
One of the best recruiting classes in the country.
Which you thought that there may be a little bit of an issue, you know, once Bob Stoops stepped down, even though it was after National Signing Day, their recruiting's only improved.
Yeah.
And they've continued to do a good job on the recruiting trails with Lincoln Riley now as head coach.
Really likable guy. Wouldn't be a hard sell. They dump this one off. Kevin Dove breaks a couple of tackles and brings this 3rd quarter to an end. All Sooners as Lincoln Riley makes his head coaching debut. On to the 4th in a 49-7 game. Back for the 4th quarter on Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen. A punt to begin the quarter. A busy day for Alan Luna. C.D. Lamb back to return it. Boy, took his time getting rid of it and just barely did get it off. A fair catch at the 14-yard line. Time for our Duluth Trading Company hardest working player. He could have gone a few different directions, but how about Mark Andrews? 7 receptions for 134 and a touchdown.
It's not just about the receptions, though. It's the blocking, whether that's been in the run game or really out in space for other wide receivers or running backs in some of the screen game. And he's been the guy, to me, that's really been the hardest worker out there, earning that title.
One of the top tight end prospects in college football. Kyler Murray's handled this second half. All Mayfield in the first half, 19 of 20. And Murray's been good as well, 5 of 6. Marcelius Sutton on first down for a gain of 4. The same kind of result you'd see most years in an Oklahoma game against UTEP, but a different look to it. No longer having Bob Stoops running the show. Those 18 seasons, more wins than anybody in Oklahoma history, which is a glorious one. 10 Big 12 championships out of the 18 years that he was the head man, and of course the national title in 2000.
In that span, they've won more Big 12 championships than home losses.
That's crazy.
Like 9 home losses over that span.
Sutton's got a first down. Good blocking out front from Lee Morris. And there is Bob taking this one in from up on this level here with the broadcast booth, and the coaching boxes are.
Talking with defensive coordinator and brother Mike Stoops. She kind of talked about, you know, people don't fully understand the stress that head coaches go through. Even sometimes when it doesn't appear as if they're concerned or worried about anything, they are. I mean, there's always something on their mind. Those wheels are always turning. And talk about the family history there with the Stoops family. That was something that was important to Bob, was at some point he'd be able to stop coaching and really enjoy life and enjoy his family.
Sutton again runs for 5 yards. And didn't take long for him to enjoy life. You never would have seen this while he was coaching, but look at this. D.L. Hewley and George Lopez, Arsenio Hall getting together for a little retirement party soon after he hung it up.
I didn't realize he was such a big comedian. I mean, he's hanging around some of the best in the business. Kind of surprising. Still waiting for my invite to that bocce ball tournament.
Yeah, right? You should have one in the mail on the way. Here's Jordan Smallwood. A first down and down to Bruce.
Guys, I thought it was interesting when we talked to Mike Stoops, his brother, yesterday. I had asked him, you know, how does it feel with Bob not being here? And when you see him, what's his kind of dynamic like? And he just said, this is such a grind with coaching. You know, it's all they really know, and they're just kind of doing it, and it's on you 365. And he said he felt good for him because he seemed like he was really happy and genuinely relieved at, you know, not being in the middle of this all the time.
Brown into UTEP territory on his second reception of the day. And, you know, it's not like Bob Stoops has suddenly disappeared. He's obviously here today. This is not his first appearance at Memorial Stadium or in the football offices. He's been a constant not constant, but consistent presence, and everybody still wants him around.
And Lincoln still wants him around. He talked about his influence still, and even some of the changes that they've made. He said changing from a 3-4 to a 4-3 was something that Bob was talking about beforehand. It's something that we agreed upon was the best thing to do for our defense.
Sutton getting a heavy dose on this drive, and Marcelius Sutton down to the 20.
I'll tell you what, these wide receivers for Oklahoma, it doesn't matter if they're starters, second or third string guys, they all do a good job of covering up bodies and blocking for their running backs. That's why they've been able to have so many big gains over the years that Lincoln Riley's been a part of this program. I mean, they really coached them up to ensure that the big gains come once they get outside and are able to get additional yardage because of their blocking.
Good block on that play from Carson Meyer, the fullback as well. Seen 2 fullbacks get touchdowns today already. Dimitri Flowers and Jackson Ewells. From the 20, Murray scans the field and dumps it off underneath to Jeff Badette. It was funny with Jeff Badette coming over from Kentucky. For whatever reason, when he was starting to look at schools where he wanted to go play his final season, he thought that Baker Mayfield was headed to the NFL. And so he was factoring that into his decision, thinking, I don't know about Oklahoma. Who's going to be their quarterback? Wasn't until his 3rd official call over the phone, talking recruiting with the Oklahoma staff, that he realized, oh, wait, Baker's coming back? And at that point, they started texting back and forth some, and that was a big part of why he chose to come here, to be able to catch passes from Mayfield. Zips this one sidearm for Brown, and he's inside the 5. That ball comes out as he hits the ground. They mark him down. First down and goal.
Brown, sophomore out of Hollywood, Florida, has a ton of speed. Talking with some of the assistants before the game, are really mentioning just how much speed they have at some of these reserve positions at wide receiver. Looked like he was down before the ball came out.
Took a timeout taken.
Brown secures the football.
Is under further review. The page came shortly after the timeout, so UTEP will not be charged a timeout.
So the key here is going to be the fact that he was ruled he was down. So it has to be indisputable that they're going to overturn this, and it looks as if he still was maintaining control of the football as his elbow hit, which would then deem him down, or his butt in that matter, as he slides over the UTEP defender.
Doesn't seem like this one should take long. Trayvon Hughes almost darted out of there, but Brown was able to hang on.
What is it with every time I see a wide receiver stretching the football towards the goal line? It just reminds me of Des Bryant and what's a catch now? Reviewing this to see if it's a fumble.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The ball carrier was down by a rule. It'll be Oklahoma's ball, 1st and goal.
From the 1.
Pretty definitive.
We pose the question off at the top. Who steps into the void left by D.D. Westbrook? And obviously a running back too with Pirine and Mixon. And Sooner fans, you figure, are fired up about the options. I don't know that you can pinpoint one guy necessarily that's going to do it, but very clearly you have a lot of options to go to.
Jeff Badette's the first one that really comes to mind at the wide receiver position. Graduate transfer from Kentucky's done a good job. I think C.D. Lamb showed a little bit of ability too today. It's Jeffrey Mead. He's the one that I'm looking for to kind of take that next step. I think the coaching staff is too.
Arcelius Sutton to the goal line, and he's in for a touchdown. He joins the party. 8 different players have scored the 8 touchdowns for Oklahoma.
These are the sorts of experiences that when you're a young player going in and getting reps at the end of games, they help to provide us huge confidence boosters. So the next time you have to go in, it may be more of a crucial situation versus a tougher opponent, maybe on the road, maybe versus Ohio State next week, but you carry these memories and these plays with you as you move forward.
Oklahoma averaging 10 yards per play today. 635 yards of offense.
Flashes of last year versus Texas Tech.
Oh,
it was 800 and some yards total offense.
It's kind of a travesty. Yeah. We brought that up with Mike Stoops yesterday. He didn't want to talk about that at all. 8 different players have scored the 8 touchdowns for Lincoln Riley in this one. All Sooners in Norman. Fox College football is presented by the all-new Volkswagen Tiguan, the new king of the concrete jungle. And is sponsored by Wells Fargo, building better every day. And by Wendy's fresh, never frozen beef hamburgers, the official hamburger of the NCAA. Joe Davis, Brady Quinn, Bruce Feldman back in Norman, where Oklahoma's rolling UTEP 56-7.
Some of the things you always are concerned with coming into the first game of a season is penalties. Oklahoma had 5, a number of personal fouls. That's something to clean up, but special teams. And so far, they've been okay. Austin Seibert did have 1 kickoff out of bounds. Something that you really can't afford to do versus tougher opponents, but for the most part, they've been pretty clean.
Thing is buried out of the back of the end zone. Game break time. Greg Wolf.
All right, Joe, thanks. Let's go back to the Coliseum. Number 4 USC in some early trouble. John Wasink, 7-yard score. Remember, this is the same Western Michigan team that was 13-0 in the regular season last year before they lost in the Cotton Bowl to Wisconsin. Broncos lead 14-7. Joe, Brady, back to you.
From Kalamazoo to the Coliseum and putting on a show.
Well, PJ Fleck did a tremendous job recruiting there. They've got some talent in the MAC. I think USC lost some key players as well. Look at them on offense. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster, #1 wide receiver from a year ago. Lockdown cornerback and return man Adoree Jackson. Tough to replace.
Zach Greenlee to throw on first down. Pulled in by Allen Busey, who's hit immediately by Khalil Houghton. Do you think that they're not putting enough stock into what USC lost when they're trying to prognosticate how they're going to be this year?
Yeah, I think so, because even on their offensive line, they lost a number of pieces. You look at that top 10, USC sits there at number 4 right now battling, and we've seen that too with a number of teams. I mean, Ohio State and Indiana was close. You look down the list, Washington, Wisconsin, both were in tough battles in the first half of those games. They ended up pulling away, but that's what happens in the first game of a season. You know, you really don't know what you have until you get out there and face an opponent.
On 2nd and 6, floating one down the sideline, and perfectly done by Greenlee, but there is a flag down as Busey has his 2nd consecutive grab.
I would imagine this is going to be defensive pass interference. It didn't seem like there was too much pushing going on, but Trey Norwood, the true freshman, will probably get called on this.
There's a flag over there in the area of pass interference, but there's also one down around the line of scrimmage back on the other side of the field.
That was something too that I was hoping to see out of UTEP, is them try to stretch the field vertically more. But part of that was a product of not being able to protect their quarterback long enough to be able to take those shots.
There are fouls by both teams. Illegal shift, offense. Number 77 was going down while 81 was in motion. Pass interference, defense, number 13. The foul's offset. Repeat the down. 2nd down.
That's number 77, Gerard Brooks, who was late getting down in his stance. And I would imagine, as a former offensive lineman, head coach Sean Kugler is going to have a real issue with that, because that's about tempo. That's about, you know, getting up and making sure you get set so everyone else can shift in motion. That's an important part of their offense, and I'm sure he's a little bit upset with him not being faster to get set or in his stance.
A 2nd down and 6. Play clock winding down. They get it off. Greenlee steps into his throw, and strong hands to pull it in by Busey again. Looks like Busey injuring that shoulder. Come out in front of this 3rd down and 1. Timeout UTEP. Our progressive performance of the game. Why don't we give it to Lincoln Riley? Congratulations on career win number 1.
Never forget your first, Joe. And I think this is one that he'll always remember. And the team did a pretty solid job all the way around, so he's got to be excited about what they're building here in Norman.
11th consecutive win for the Sooners back to last season, which is the longest active streak in the country, and it will be on the line in Columbus next week.
You know, one of the rule changes this year too was the sideline warnings, not allowing coaches to come onto the field. It hasn't really been something we've seen so far in the college football season, but Lincoln Riley has conducted himself in a very calm manner today, so he doesn't have to worry about it either.
He's a pretty calm guy. They're able to convert this 3rd down and short. Kevin Dove has run hard all afternoon. He gets 5 here. 1st down and 10 to the 39.
Yeah, I think each team has assigned a coach to really pull back the head coach if he starts to wander onto the field. It's been a point of emphasis, something that we talked about in some of our rules meetings. And we haven't seen it impact a game yet, but you got to believe in some of these heated contests we're about to see, coaches are probably going to forget at some points in time and potentially be penalized.
Sometimes you just lose your mind, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can know the rule, but you know, the heat of the moment. Greenlee dumps this one off. Forrest McKee with his first career reception, and then he's buried by Curtis Bolton.
Well, every game matters, and a lot of times you feel like every play matters because it can change the outcome of the game. It's where a lot of times you get upset with officials when you feel like they've made a wrong call, and that's when their emotions just get the best of them. Probably should assign a strength coach.
Yeah,
coach
that would be a great.
The biggest guy on the staff.
Well, the biggest guy on UTEP staff is Sean Kugler himself, so that wouldn't work as well. Josh Fields, Bolton another tackle.
Bolton, very versatile. Coming into this game, they talked about him playing Sam, Mike, or Will. So still kind of getting an understanding of when to use his speed. He's been a guy who's flashed since he's entered the game. Seems to have that quote-unquote nose for the football. Good football instincts and IQ.
Inside of 7 minutes, and on 3rd down and 7, Zach Greenlee pumps one outside. It's popped in the air and incomplete. And there was Bolton, you said, having a nose for the football. Finds himself around it. There's Trey Norwood defends. That makes it 4th down.
If you're an Oklahoma fan, you've really got to be pleased about even the reserves, the way they've come in and be able to shut down the UTEP offense. Trey Norwood's been involved. Obviously, Curtis Bolton. He's a redshirt junior, a little bit older, but I mean, still, you've got to have the versatility to be able to put in players different positions, and Bolton is that guy.
CeeDee Lamb to the 32. Both Oklahoma schools off to impressive starts this season on a collision course in Bedlam in November. We'll talk a little bit about those two squads and the rest of the Big 12 when we come back. The road ahead for these Sooners, sponsored by Coors Light. Some tough games on this schedule. First up, Ohio State next week on the road. We're talking about that matchup with Bedlam. They first got to get through Texas and the Red River game, and then have to go to Manhattan to play Kansas State before that November 4th meeting.
5 teams in the Big 12 ranked in the preseason top 25. Now that will change with Texas losing today, number 23, but a lot of parity.
First down run for Trey Sermon. Was handed off by Tanner Schaefer, who makes his collegiate debut here from Canadian, Texas, which is just off of the Panhandle, very northern part of the state, known as the Oasis or the High Plains.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it sure does. We should continue our tour of this region from Stillwater to Norman to Canadian. Thrown underneath for a completion. Near the first down marker. Chase Neville makes the reception. Oklahoma State equally impressive the other night in the blowout win against Tulsa. How about our tail of the tape coming into the year for these two teams?
Well, Mike Gundy's one of the consecutively longest tenured head coaches in the Big 12. You got to give Oklahoma State the advantage there on offense. I don't know. After seeing Oklahoma today, you know, maybe that's a check in both cases. The defense, I would have to give it to Oklahoma. The quarterback, you're going to check in both boxes for that. And really, it's the schedule. Oklahoma has to go on the road to Kansas State as well as to Stillwater. And those are going to be two of the toughest games they're going to play all year. And really in the national scene, we just saw their schedule. They got to go to Columbus, Ohio next week. So Oklahoma's got a very tough schedule ahead of them. Lincoln Riley's got his work cut out for him.
Kansas State's a team that you don't hear a ton about, but they're going to be pretty good.
A lot of returning starters on both sides of the football, in particular at quarterback. And, you know, Bill Snyder's that head coach. Because of the system, because of what he's built at Kansas State, no one wants to play them. I mean, they seem to have little wrinkles here and there, but always catch you at the wrong time.
Especially there, having to go to Manhattan, that's not an easy trip. Second down and 4, Schaefer. All day to throw and trying to buy a little more time before flinging it out of bounds.
It's going to be close, though. You know, we've had an opportunity to see both Oklahoma State and Oklahoma this week. I think one thing is for sure, you've got to be excited if you're a college football fan, you live in the state of Oklahoma. You've got two really good teams that have a shot at making the college football playoff, obviously winning the Big 12.
And of course, the Big 12 championship back this year, first time in 7 years. That'll be in Jerry's World, out of the home of the Cowboys.
Should help the Big 12 champion get into the college football playoff. They've only been once in the past 3 years.
That's a first down, second catch for Neville. A lot of the perception of this conference will be dictated by what happens in non-conference play. Of course, Texas losing today, not good. To Maryland, good opportunity for West Virginia against Virginia Tech coming up in a couple of nights, and then Oklahoma and Ohio State, the big one next week.
You look at the criteria of the College Football Playoff Committee. They really value that non-conference schedule. That's something where I think as you're trying to pick out which 4 teams in the Power 5 conferences deserve to get in the playoff, they're going to factor that in.
Trey Sermon. Of course, Oklahoma, the only team to make the college football playoff out of the Big 12 over the 3 years. And we talked about it. It should theoretically help having the championship game, but there is this scenario where, say, Oklahoma runs the table and were to lose to a 2-loss team in the championship team and thereby miss out.
There's pros and cons to each side of it. I think every team that has a conference championship game, is going to run that risk. Every conference is going to run that risk. But at the end of the day, as Lincoln Riley told us before the game, having that 13th indicator, as the committee calls it, to judge a team off of, gives them a better opportunity of kind of playing to the favor of the committee.
Walk on Miles Tees with a catch.
And playing in December at that part in time of the year, for your conference championship, it's meaningful in the eyes of the committee. So maybe that will persuade them to look more in the Big 12's direction as we move forward.
Najee Bassoon, the latest to touch it for the Sooners, and wheels his way back to the line of scrimmage and gets a yard.
Fifth-year senior out of Houston, Texas. A number of players obviously from that area. Some affected by Hurricane Harvey.
Inside of 2 minutes now. Schaefer in trouble and able to get rid of it. Incomplete. Time now for the winning duo, sponsored by Volkswagen. Why settle for an SUV when you can have an SUVW? Mark Andrews caught 7 passes from Baker Mayfield today for 134 and a touchdown.
Surprise, surprise. And this is a matchup that coming into the season, I think a lot of Oklahoma fans were very familiar with. The biggest question is out at wide receiver. As much as you love seeing this connection, we've seen that in the past. The outside to step up for Oklahoma, like D.D. Westbrook did last year.
But soon, I mean, Andrews is just a total matchup nightmare.
It's because of his size and really his versatility, being able to block on the line of scrimmage, and as well as Oklahoma runs the football, that just makes their play action pass that much more effective. And we saw on the touchdown catch down around the goal line, I mean, it's incredibly hard to stop. An offensive line, tight ends, those guys have a 3-yard cushion. When you're sitting on the 4-yard line, how do you tell the defensive line and the linebackers to be able to get a read on whether or not the guy's given the football, whether it's a run or a pass? In the NFL, it's only 1 yard. That's something I wouldn't mind seeing changed. More uniformity there.
Bassoon loses a yard. That's a turnover on downs. Inside of a minute left to go. We've got one more break for you. Back to finish it off after this. Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen, is sponsored by Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave. Just about finished here in Norman. Everything's gone right in Lincoln Riley's head coaching debut. 56-7 lead. He's had 8 different players score the 8 touchdowns. And the old Muleshoe High School quarterback He moved to 1-0 in his young career. He is the right age to be able to rack up a lot of wins here. A lot of guys have. The only program that has 4 coaches with at least 100 wins, and the guy that he's replacing in Bob Stoops more than any of them.
We talked about at the beginning of the game. The question for Lincoln Riley is, you know, how do you kind of create your own identity, but continue to carry on the success that Bob Stoops, as well as other head coaches here at Oklahoma, have done.
Ronald Awatt, first carry. Happy 34th birthday for him on Tuesday. Still the youngest head coach in FBS.
A lot of things working in his favor, though, too, right? You got a quarterback like Baker Mayfield going in his last year of eligibility. You got Kyler Murray lined up behind him. Tremendous facilities here in Norman.
And he said that he realizes that there's probably not a better situation to step into.
Probably not a better head coaching office from our time meeting with them.
Can you believe that? I felt like I was in an old cathedral.
It's like 1,500 square feet or something. It's ridiculous.
And no joke, while we were in there yesterday meeting with him, the practice flyover for today's game happened right over his office. Like, this is not real life here. We're going to fly over mid-meeting. This palatial office. Sure, that thing opened up and Bob Stoops is like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not totally sure.
I know this much. If he talks about sleeping at the office, I do not feel bad for him because that is one of the most nicest offices we've ever been in.
They want downhill for the final play here in Norman. Baker Mayfield, 19 of 20 for 329 to help Lincoln Riley win his head coaching debut. 56-7 the final score in this one. Stay tuned after the break. Rob Stone and the guys in LA for more post-game coverage. Joe, Brady, and Bruce saying so long from Norman.